And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, July 28th. I'm Josh Engelman. I am joined by Adam Sharon. We are brought to you by Yahoo. We will certainly be talking about Yahoo in a bit. Before we do anything, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Adam, how are things? Congrats on yesterday. I don't have to ask how you did because you had a pretty good early and main slate.
Yeah, yesterday was fun. Got second on the early slate in the large field tournament. It was a really top-heavy tournament. I lost by a point on a random home run, so that was annoying, but still 10K there, and then had a good late slate in the smaller field single-entry format stuff. So really good day for me yesterday.
Unfortunately, though, couldn't beat that jabroni in a head-to-head, though, so you're not really all that good to begin with.
Yeah, that is true. I may have made 30,000 yesterday, but losing that 200 did really hurt the ego.
That guy was just like, only 25K. Oh my God. Yeah, I took a look at all your results on the process show this morning because I did not play yesterday, and I was like, oh well, at least I'll highlight something good that went on around these parts. So congrats for that. I can't look, you were like, hey, I'm going to be heavy on at least for the early slate, you're like, hey, I'm going to be heavy on the Brewers, and that certainly worked out.
Yes, it did.
Sure did. 8 games today. It's nonsense time again. The Dodgers are back in course, so everything is shitty for the entire slate. Top stack odds are just completely dumb. And luckily for us, we also have Ohtani on this slate at a price tag that makes absolutely no sense. Does DraftKings know that when Ohtani pitches, they could price him like a pitcher?
Greg and I were talking about that this morning. Like, it has to have something to do with like his hitting stats, like screwing up the algorithm or something, because I really don't know that on DraftKings that he's been the correct price at any point this season. It's like he just lives at 9K despite being one of the best DFS pitchers in the league.
He is, to me, unquestionably the number one pitching option today. And
he has the highest strikeout percentage by like 9 points.
I've got him by 4 points today overall, and there are 4 pitchers more expensive than him, including Zack Wheeler up at 10 too. It's just dumb. So for all those of you looking for any cash game information, spoiler alert, you're playing Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers today. And if you're not doing that in a cash game, please send all head-to-heads to Adam. I assume you'd be happy to take all of them on. All right, let me close this. For some reason, the woman that lives inside my phone, whose name I don't want to say so it doesn't pop back up again, just came up for something that I said in that last little bit. I don't know if I said something close to that word, but I don't know. It was weird. I didn't know what she was about to show me. You ready to dive into this one? Are we good?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Royals and Yankees, what a fitting time for these two teams to be playing each other fresh off of the trade market. 5.2 run implied total for the Yanks, 3.5 for the Royals. Brady Singer going for KC, Jamison Taillon going for the Yankees. No ownership going to Singer at 8K. 20% ownership going to Taillon on the Yankees side of this one. We got to start with Taillon just simply because he doesn't have to face the Yankees. So how do you feel about the 20% ownership coming into Taillon?
I think it's fine. This morning we had like 14% going to Taillon and like 25% going to Kakuchi. That's evened out a bit now, so it's 20% to Taillon and 18% to Kakuchi. I think it makes more sense for them to be about the same. There is one pitcher that I mentioned this morning in Urquidy that is also in that price range and is getting less ownership that I'm interested in. But for Taillon, it makes sense. You know, I think there's really 3 pitchers at the top today that stand out in Ohtani, Wheeler, and Alex Wood, particularly talking DraftKings pricing. And then there's like a second tier where it's Taillon, Kakuchi, and to some extent Urquidy. And then it's like a bunch of guys that are either in tough matchups or at really unappealing price tags. So I understand why the ownership's getting there. He's facing a Kansas City team that isn't very good. They obviously don't have Benintendi anymore since he's now on the same team as Taillon. They still don't have Salvador Perez active. So at this point, and no Bobby Witt in the lineup. So at this point, you're really talking about a lineup that has Melendez, Merrifield, Pasquantino, 1 through 3, and then just a bunch of garbage underneath it. So it sets up as a good spot for Taillon. He's not a great strikeout pitcher, but he's a decent real life pitcher, 3.83 xFIP this year, only walking 3.5% of hitters. So that's good. has had some home run issues, allowing 1.2 home runs per nine. And it is a park upgrade for Kansas City. So left-handed bats like Melendez and Pasquantino, Pasquantino in particular at 2,300, I think are really appealing. But as a whole, it sets up as a good spot for Tyone.
Can you justify any bit going to Singer today against the Yankees, or is this just too good of a lineup? Oh, is this too good of a part of the lineup? Bottom of the lineup's not very good.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting spot. So Singer's not getting any ownership. We have him projected for 2% ownership. He has the third highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 25.7%. He has a 3.32 xFIP. This is a former first-round pick that seemingly has put it together, and he's having a good year. The matchup is tough, and it's dangerous, like you said, but the bottom of the order isn't that good. Donaldson hasn't been himself this year. Joey Gallo is a free strikeout at this point, so it's a really dangerous spot. And I don't think that you should be prioritizing Singer. Like, I don't know how you would, but I do think he's kind of interesting if you're playing chalkier stacks. This is a slate where you have a lot of ownership going to a few pitchers. You have a lot of ownership going to the Dodgers in particular, and then a couple of other stacks behind them, but still popular. So I do think Singer is at least talented enough where in individual lineups, you can play him at low ownership and still have a high ceiling. From a talent standpoint, from a strikeout standpoint, like, he's a better strikeout pitcher than Tyone. He's a better strikeout pitcher than Wood. Those guys obviously have better matchups, but I think that in individual lineups, you can make a case for Singer. But if you're talking across like 150 lineups, I don't expect to have a lot just because he's facing the Yankees and it's a bad spot.
Yeah, like, I think he's not all that different than like Urquidy today. It just so happens that he's got a pretty terrible matchup, but he's good. I wouldn't mind getting to him. I just don't know how big of a priority that's going to be, especially considering that Shohei Ohtani might just be in 100% of your lineup. So you really got to be thin with that other 100%. Let's talk bats. We'll talk Yankees first, fourth in aggregate ownership, fourth in our top stack tool. I have them fifth. Only Aaron Judge is in double digits of ownership. Andrew Benintendi hitting leadoff for the Yanks today. Lineup looks good other than the absolute bottom. How do you feel about New York against Singer? 5.2 run implied total feels high for this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I get having interest in the Yankees because they're not very popular. You're going to get so much ownership going to the Dodgers, and then you're going to get a good amount going to Toronto, good amount going to Cleveland. The Yankees' projected ownership has come up a bit since this morning, but it is a tough matchup against Singer. The Yankees are pretty close to matchup proof. I mean, they just have so much power and so many good hitters in this lineup. But the other issue is that they're pretty expensive, and there's not a lot of cheap pitching to speak of on this slate. So, if you're talking about putting like Benintendi, Judge, Rizzo, Torres in a lineup, those guys are pretty expensive. The bottom of the order is cheaper. So I wasn't getting to a lot of the Yankees this morning. I don't know if I will or not for the, by the time lock rolls around, but they're always a reasonable option when they're not the highest owned team.
Any cash options on the Yankee side? I thought that we would have gotten like a little bit more obvious something there just because they have the fourth highest implied total on the slate, but like, this is just, if you end up with Judge, it's fine type stuff. There's no priorities.
Yeah, I don't really think so. Judge obviously is really, really good, but the reason I would say he's not somebody I'm likely to get to in cash is because you have Mookie Betts for $300 less. Benintendi at 4,200, maybe. Like, the lineup I made this morning had Betts, Reyes, and Lamb in the outfield. Reyes is like $1,000 less than Benintendi. I haven't rebuilt the lineup, so if more value opened up somewhere else, maybe I can get Reyes to Benintendi. That would be nice. But yeah, I think it's just, even though the Yankees are obviously really good hitters, anybody that you point to, there's going to be somebody where it's just like, oh, well, at that position, there's a better value.
Yeah, it's one of those days. Well, Benintendi, if he's hitting leadoff, he might be set up to just score like every single day. Somebody's going to dong him in.
Yeah, he's just, his floor becomes 2.
Yeah, it really does. Like, his runs scored are just going to skyrocket at this point.
Frank Castle said the Judge take, agree to disagree. I don't know what the Judge take was. I said he's really good at hitting, and he doesn't project as well as Mookie Betts.
Frank Castle also thinks that you're a moron if you play the Dodgers in a GPP, which don't be afraid to look at the lineup study for the relay throw tomorrow. I have a sneaky suspicion that some prevalent 150 maxers are going to have some Dodgers.
Yeah.
Going out on a limb.
Yeah, good tournament players typically do play good offenses.
Yep. I wonder what I wonder what the meme of chat is going to be in like 2 or 3 years once that stuff is like long gone.
If anybody has any ownership, you can't play them in tournaments.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
what is the current thing that we like? What's the new narrative going to be?
yeah, I don't know. And I mean, I'll say so. Like, and Sean had said, well, you play 150 lineups, so that's why. I know in the crunch that I did on the show with Greg this morning, my top ranked lineup was like a Red Sox Dodgers stack. So it was like 5 Red Sox, 3 Dodgers.
Yeah,
that's what I would be playing in single entry.
That's what happens when, at least for me, the top stack is 27% likely for the Dodgers and they have a 7-run implied total. You're going to get that quite a bit. Unless everybody wants to buy into that Chad Kuhl's going to shut them down again narrative.
Oh, yeah, we already had the Urania pitched well against them last time conversation.
I can't right now. Royals, 14th in top stack, 11th in ownership. They're free. That's all I got.
I mentioned Pasquantino individually. I do like him. I was getting to Kansas City this morning, I think just because they are so inexpensive. I would not be upset if I don't get to there by the time lock rolls around. But Taillon has allowed a 190 expected ISO to lefties this year. You do get the nice park shift for any left-handed power in this lineup, which again basically means MJ Melendez and Vinny Pasquantino. Ryan O'Hearn is left-handed, but he's also Ryan O'Hearn. He has power, just not a very good hitter overall. But Pasquantino at 2,300 is one that individually does really stand out. One other point, I guess, to make on DraftKings, and, again, it's not that I like Kansas City that much here. They did give O'Hearn and Dozier both first base outfield eligibility. So even though we have the 3 through 5 of Pasquantino, Dozier, and O'Hearn, at least you can actually play them together now.
Is there anything else that we should touch on here between the Royals and the Yankees?
I don't think so. Just to reiterate, Vinny Pasquantino looks good.
He sure does. Sure does.
Pasquantino might actually be my favorite hitter in this game.
I don't think that's a crazy statement. Like, he's 2,300. He's hitting third. He's lefty on righty. The only guy that I have, like, for sure ahead of him is Judge. And we're talking about, like, 2 completely different things at that point.
Yeah, and the thing with Judge is that not only is he expensive, and more expensive than Mookie and all that, but like outfield is a spot where you can just find a lot of value on this slate too. So obviously Judge is a really good play, but I would expect to have more Pasquantino, honestly.
Yeah, it's just easier. I mean, he's just going to fit more and at a better position for it. All righty. Well, let's keep it moving. Pirates and Phillies. 3.2 run implied total for the Pirates, 4.4 for the Phillies. Zack Thompson and Zack Wheeler, battle of the Zacks. We'll let them fight over who spells it with the right letter at the end. Thompson, unowned. Wheeler, 28% owned today at 10,200. He is the most expensive pitcher on the DraftKings slate. The Pirates might have the worst lineup on the DraftKings slate today. Not necessarily like a fantastic strikeout matchup, though. It doesn't really matter because Wheeler's just good. I'll happily pay the 10,200.
Yeah, without a doubt. I was getting right around the field on him this morning. I expect that to be the case. The only thing kind of keeping my exposure to him in check, and also I think the fields, is the Shohei Ohtani price tag, where he's just $1,300 less expensive with a much, much better strikeout percentage. And then the fact that while there are a couple of cheap Dodgers bats, the good Dodgers are reasonably priced and they're expensive. So like it's really difficult. You can do it, but it's tough to make a lot of lineups that you like if you're going to the Dodgers and the pair of Shohei Ohtani and Wheeler, because the top end of the Dodgers order is so expensive. It just becomes like a lot easier to go Ohtani plus Wood or somebody else in that price range. So I think that's why you're only getting 30% ownership going to Wheeler, because otherwise it would be a lot more. You're facing the Pirates in Pittsburgh. This is a team with like an 84 WRC plus on their active roster. Wheeler is really good. Second best strikeout percentage on the slate, just shy of 27%. 3.11 xFIP is the second best on the slate. He's a really good pitcher. It's just that on DraftKings, Ohtani's price is kind of breaking Zack Wheeler. On FanDuel, I mentioned Wheeler in my tournament plays video because he is priced about the same as Ohtani, and we have Ohtani getting like double the ownership. Ohtani, again, I think like he projects better. It's not particularly close, but Wheeler does give you that same range of outcomes, and he's not getting nearly as much ownership.
Zack Thompson? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's talk Phillies bats. 6th in top stack, 10th in ownership. A little bit of positive leverage here. Only Kyle Schwarber in double digits in ownership. Thompson doesn't miss a ton of bats. not really the park for power. I don't love the run total for the Phillies. What do you do here? Are they just like a team that you'll probably have a little bit of, or do you see something here?
I was getting to them a lot this morning, and I think it's just a matter of they're one of the better. They're one of the more likely offenses to succeed that also offers some value. Like if you look at the top stacks tool and you look at the teams ahead of them, the Dodgers obviously in both categories are ahead of them, but they're also wildly popular. Toronto is relatively expensive. Cleveland is really popular. The Yankees are expensive. The Rockies are expensive. With Philadelphia, Schwarber's 5,100, but outside of that, the most expensive guy in the lineup is Hoskins at 4,100. If you don't want to pay that, you can go to Derek Hall at first base for $500 less. So it's not the best lineup and it's not the best park, but it's also not a very good pitcher in Thompson. And one other thing about this slate is that, kind of mentioned it from the pitching standpoint earlier, where there's a handful of pitchers that are getting ownership, and then a lot of the other pitchers are either priced in an unappealing way or they're in a tough matchup. There are pretty solid pitchers on this slate, though. So it goes both ways where, like, for example, Logan Gilbert facing the Astros, Tristan Mckenzie facing Boston. Those are offenses that you can always make a case to get to, but they're not in the most appealing spots. So just getting to Philadelphia at relatively low ownership and cheap price tags against one of the weaker pitchers on the slate in Thompson does seem pretty appealing to me, even though I don't like the park. And it is a watered down Phillies lineup without Harper.
Yeah, I think the spot's totally fine. I think sixth in top stack feels about right for today.
Also, one thing to point out, when I ran that crunch this morning and was getting to a lot of Philly, I did have JT Realmuto in the lineup. He's not in there either, so it makes the lineup even worse. But individually, I think Schwarber looks really good, and I really like Derek Hall at 3,600 as well.
Do you like anything on the Pirates side of this one? Let me stop you.
Not.
No. 16th in top stack, 16th in ownership.
Yep,
I had them at a crisp 14th, but that is not important to me at all. I have no interest here whatsoever.
Frank Castle said only stack Phillies and tourneys. I don't know what the hell else you would be stacking them in, but that's correct.
Yeah. As opposed to cash.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sure if someone stacked the Phillies against you in cash, Matt Vierling's going yard for sure.
Oh yeah, I'll send you the screenshot and be like, "What is this?" And then it's just gonna be like Alec Baum home run, Matt Vierling double dong.
I mean, every night you'll send me the screenshot of like whatever's available in that guy and like in some moron's lineup, and then the moment you send me that, someone in that lineup dongs within like 2 minutes, and then I usually get another one in like 15 minutes. It's like clockwork. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the guy got the guy that is 2-0 against me now. Not only did he get a Candelario home run at 2,200 or whatever 2 nights ago, but that home run also blew Clevenger's win, which cost me the qualifier. So just across the board pissed me off.
Oh man, that's a rough beat. Anything else, Pirates or Phillies?
No.
Alrighty. Schedule for the rest of the day. You guys should know this one by now. MLB Live before lock. Greg and Eric coming up next, 6 p.m., taking you all the way up till 7:05. Free content for today. MLB projections. If you're watching this show, I assume that's what you're here for. You could head straight to Stokastic.com, access those projections, or there may be a link in chat. Who knows? Blue Jays and Tigers. That's not how you type Blue Jays, but I gave it a good shot. 5.5 run implied total for the Jays.
LEW Jays.
Instead of L, I went with less than. I wasn't close. I mean, like, the key is next to it on the keyboard, but like,
why were you trying to capitalize the L though?
I wasn't trying to capitalize the L.
So how'd you get less than?
Oh, well, I capitalized the B, and I guess I just had the shift key held in a little bit longer. You had me thinking, like, why was I trying to capitalize the L? But no, I just held shift too long, I guess. I mean, it was enough that I was pressing L incorrectly, so shouldn't be weird that I also got the left hand of this incorrect too. You say Kakuchi and Tyler Alexander go in here. Kakuchi, 7,700, 18% owned. Tyler Alexander, not owned, and I would imagine shouldn't be. I don't think you're going to be telling me something different. He's going to throw like 2 innings. I mean, Kakuchi certainly looks like a decent value proposition here against a really bad Tigers team that does have a propensity for strikeouts. The problem is, like, I don't know what to do with Kakuchi. He never throws deep enough into a game. Can he go deep enough to be worth it here at 7,700?
He can. It's just a matter of, does he pitch well enough?
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough with him because he typically just doesn't pitch very well. But he went
Yeah.
5 innings through 77 pitches in his most recent rehab start. If you get 5-ish innings out of him here, that's going to be decent at 7,700. He does have good strikeout stuff. He's got the 5th highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 25%. The issue is that everything else across the board is not very good. 4.48 xFIP, 13.9% walk percentage, 1.94 home runs per 9. I understand why he's getting ownership. I will get to some just because of the strikeout numbers and the price, but you really just can't have much confidence in this guy. I will say this morning when I ran my crunch, I was getting less Kakuchi than Tyone and Urquidy, but Kakuchi was also projected for 25% ownership. Now that Tyone and Kakuchi are more in line, I think I probably do get a little bit more Kakuchi than I was, but I would still expect to be just like, somewhere around the field, maybe even a little bit below. But he is one of the kind of like second tier pitchers on this slate.
Okay. Yeah, I think he's probably a little over-owned for me. We'll get to who I think should probably be a little bit higher a little bit later, but clearly viable. Basically anybody that can throw starter innings is viable against the Tigers. And 7,700 is not a price that would slow me down. We don't have to talk about Tyler Alexander. We do have to talk about the Blue Jays. Second in our top stack tool. I completely agree with it. Third in ownership. Highest owned guy is Vlad Guerrero at 13%. Dodgers are certainly keeping a bit of this ownership away from Toronto. I would happily get here. I don't see a single thing wrong with. I mean, they're running out 9 righties against Tyler Alexander. All 9 of them might get a chance to bat, but I don't know how long Alexander will last. They look good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only negative I can point to for Toronto is this is just like a modified bullpen game, which is never that appealing. Most of these guys are probably going to face Alexander once. Maybe they've a couple of them face him more than once, but also if he turns the lineup over, he probably is pitching relatively well to that point, which is why they're leaving him in. So that's the concern. Like, it is a good spot for Toronto against Alexander, but he's also just not a true starting pitcher. He's probably throwing around 40 pitches, I would assume around 3 innings or so. That's not to say like not to play the Blue Jays. They're one of the best offenses in baseball. They have tons of power in this lineup, but I think it's just at least worth pointing out that bullpen games in general just are not super appealing.
Yeah. Is there any cash viability here on the Blue Jay side? Like if you get to Vlad type stuff, if you get to Kirk?
It's kind of the same. It's similar to me to the Yankees. I think they're probably a little easier to get to than the Yankees, but like Springer, 5,500. Sure, he's good, but Mookie Betts is $300 more. Guerrero, 5,400, really good play. Freddie Freeman, $400 more. Kirk at 4,900, good play. Will Smith is in Coors Field for the same price. So that's kind of the issue that I think, Bo Bichette, Trey Turner, same kind of thing. I think that's the issue you're going to run into is the Blue Jays are like the second best play across the board at like so many different positions.
Let's talk a little bit about what Tankenstein just said. Do you guys get concerned about bullpens at all? Detroit's bullpen is top 5. 1, I don't get concerned about bullpens at all. But 2, please don't look at ERA for bullpens as a way to rank a bullpen.
Yeah, but even like without getting into where Detroit's actual bullpen is, I am concerned about bullpens in general. Bullpen games typically are not very appealing, especially as bullpens, even on bad teams, turn into guy after guy after guy that throw 100 miles an hour. Like typically it used to be like you get into the bullpen and you're getting guys throwing 90 miles an hour and giving up home runs. Now it's just like, oh, he throws 100, but he doesn't know where it's going. So he's walking a bunch of guys, or he's throwing 100 and he's throwing strikes and you're not hitting him. So that on top of, facing a different pitcher every time you come up to hit just makes bullpen games in general unappealing. So I'm concerned about that. I'm not concerned about it in the sense where like, oh, I think Detroit is better than these other teams or whatever. Because the other thing on top of bullpens just naturally being small samples and all of that is when you're just looking at like aggregate bullpen rankings, it's talking about all of the pitchers. And so it's lumping in like, and I don't know what the case is for the Tigers, but I'm just using this as an example. Like it's lumping in your back end guys, your closer, your setup man, which are typically going to be like good pitchers, with whoever would be coming in the 4th inning, which in some cases is going to be a wildly less effective pitcher.
Not to mention, like, 1, we obviously have no idea who's coming into the game. 2, if you do damage against the starter, you're getting the worst part of the bullpen moving forward too. Like, it's not like they're bringing in the closer in the fourth
Right.
to stop the bleeding. So like, it is a bit self-fulfilling too.
Right. Like that's what I'm saying is like, even if you're just looking at the total results of the bullpen. For example, if you look at xFIP, the Tigers are right in the middle of the pack, 4.03 xFIP. They rank 13th.
18th in Sierra.
Or 13th from the bottom, rather. They rank, 18th from the top in xFIP.
Yeah.
But like even that, like you were saying, it matters who's actually coming into the game. But then the flip side of that is most bullpens these days, even the quote unquote bad pitchers, are going out there for an inning and they're throwing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's not something that affects anything that I do from a DFS perspective, other than a bullpen game itself is just going to project slightly worse.
Right. And looking at, I mean, not that I even know who these guys are, but looking at their bullpen, like they have been used a bit recently, but only one pitcher, Fulmer, has pitched 2 days in a row. So I assume they're pretty much available across the board.
Well, they better be, because Toronto's coming to smack this shit around. So how valuable are the Tigers here against Kakuchi? 8th in top stack, but they are our number one value stack in the top value metric. They are 9th in ownership. Is there something here for Detroit?
I'm interested in the Tigers. I was kind of surprised I didn't get to more of them this morning, but I wouldn't be upset if I do, by the time the slate starts, because they're cheap. There is some right-handed power here, or at least some, decent right-handed hitters. The entire lineup, with the exception of Castro, has the platoon advantage against Kakuchi. And Kakuchi's allowed a 218 expected ISO to righties this year, 284 to lefties. I was actually hoping Riley Green would be in the lineup, but the strikeout percentage against righties is actually higher than lefties as well. But the point being, 379 expected WOBA, 218 expected ISO. Favorable price tags here. You have Grossman leading off at 2,800. Baez is only 4,200. Cabrera is close to minimum salary. Haas has power for a catcher at 4,300. Candelario and Scope hitting 5.6 for 2,600 and 2,300. This is a team that is in a good hitter's park, facing a pitcher that gives up a lot of power. You can go to the Tigers at relatively low ownership, get whatever pitching you want, get whatever one-offs you want. Very easy to mini stack the Dodgers with them and get good pitching. So I am actually interested in the Tigers here.
Yeah. To me, it's totally reasonable, just because there's enough value there to make it normal. I mean, only two guys north of 2,800.
Yeah. And
whole team's
Baez
free.
Coming in as the most popular guy at 8%.
Yeah. Yeah. And the two guys that are above 2,800 are Baez at short and Eric Haas at catcher. Like, two positions that, generally speaking, could have higher salaries. Like, it's not all that crazy to me to get those two guys. So
yeah,
I almost called him a center and not a catcher again.
Going back to the start of the 2020 season against left-handed pitching, just highlighting a couple of the expected ISOs. Baez is at 239. Miggy's at 155, which isn't great, but he's 2,100. Haas is 225. Candelario is 205. Scope 151, but again, he's basically minimum salary. It's not that, it's a lineup full of power hitters, but it's not like you're talking about just like slap hitters across the board either.
Are you ready to move on to game number 4?
Yes. I just saw Larry C say don't play Green. I didn't know what he was referring to, but yeah, Riley Green's not in the lineup.
By the way, 640 people in here right now, just 74 likes, not nearly enough. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done it yet. Those likes help us out tremendously, costs you absolutely nothing. I'm very interested to get your thoughts here. 4.4 run implied total for the Red Sox, 4.7 for the Guardians. Cutter Crawford, who, when I prepped my betting video yesterday, I typed in as Cutter with a K, Cutter with a C. That did not return any statistics from Fangraphs when I did it. Tristan Mckenzie going for Cleveland. Crawford getting a 4% ownership at 6,100. That's not my question for you. What are your thoughts on Tristan Mckenzie here, who is 3% owned and, to me, under-owned?
I don't even want to give them after what happened last time.
But you can.
I think Mckenzie is under-owned. I also doubt that I'm really going to get to Mckenzie. The price tag is what makes it difficult. Zack Wheeler clearly looks better than Mckenzie, and I already said that it's relatively difficult to get to Wheeler. Obviously you can get to him in plenty of lineups, but Ohtani's price and to a lesser extent, Alex Wood's price makes it kind of difficult there. McKenzie's only $300 less than him, but he's $1,000 more than Ohtani, which just makes it so difficult to get there. And then also thinking about it from like a roster construction standpoint, the Dodgers are pulling so much ownership that most other teams, I'm not going to really be going out of my way to play pitchers that are giving up a bunch of points projection wise. And if I'm going to the Dodgers, it's going to be difficult for me to get to McKenzie because he's 9,900 and the Dodgers are relatively expensive. So I think he is going under owned. I think he's a good pitcher, but I also don't anticipate getting to him.
I am significantly higher on Tristan McKenzie today than you, than our projections, than our top pitchers tool. Sign me up for Tristan McKenzie, who I think is wildly underowned.
Watered down lineup for Boston too. I mean, I don't disagree with you on McKenzie being underowned. I don't disagree on his upside. I just think it's going to be difficult for him to actually show up in my lineups. I know I didn't get to him this morning.
I think it's insane that the gap between Wheeler and McKenzie is 28-3 in ownership. To me, it should be the same.
I think that's crazy.
Uh-oh. Am I dying or are you dying?
I don't know.
It's gotta be me, right? Me. Oh, it's certainly me.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom. Ruh-roh.
Are you good? And he's frozen. All right, so is he back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Good.
Well,
I can see you now. You're moving.
See you or Jordan, and I have no idea if I'm actually live.
Can you hear me? Yeah, like I see you moving. I can hear you. Can you hear me? All right. Well, while he is not capable of doing anything, I will talk about wanting to play the Red Sox against Tristan McKenzie because I'm sure he's going to disagree with that one. But I was getting to a lot of the Red Sox this morning. I think there's a pretty good chance I get there again, or I still end up getting there going in the lock because while the Red Sox lineup is watered down, not having Devers, not having Story, it also makes them pretty inexpensive. You have Duran and Verdugo at the top for cheap price tags. There is some pinch hit risk with Duran, as we saw last night. But then the middle of the order with Bogarts and Martinez is pretty good. Vasquez gives you a catcher option. Bobby Dahlbeck hitting 7th at 2,600, though, really stands out. I wish he wasn't hitting 7th, but he was my highest owned hitter last night. I think he's probably going to be one of my highest owned hitters again tonight. McKenzie has good strikeout stuff, but he does also have some power issues. 201 expected ISO with only a 20% strikeout percentage against right-handed hitters this year. I really like that price tag on Dahlbeck. I like JD Martinez. I like Bogarts. I like the cheap price tags at the top of this order. This is another team that, just because so many other teams are clearly in better spots today, they're just not getting much ownership. 5% aggregate ownership coming into Boston looks pretty appealing to me against McKenzie at those price tags. So I do think I'm going to get to the Boston side. Hopefully Josh didn't hear any of that because I don't feel like listening to his DMs when McKenzie strikes out 10 of them. But I almost certainly am going to have more Red Sox than McKenzie.
Okay. I didn't hear a bit of it at the beginning. I don't know what happened there. At one point now I saw that I was on the screen. I couldn't see you. I couldn't see Jordan. Chat disconnected. I went down to unplug the modem and plug it back in. And when I got down there, you just started talking in my ear. So I came back up. But let's just be clear here. That's always right. What's a good clip?
Nothing.
Oh, no. I'm always right about Tristan McKenzie. Everyone should follow me on this one. Tristan McKenzie should be owned as much as Zack Wheeler.
I mean, I personally would love more people to play Tristan McKenzie and less people to play the Red Sox.
Red Sox 7th in top stack, 5th in ownership. Did you go through the Red Sox already?
Yep.
Did you go through the Cleveland side already?
No. I just talked about the Red Sox.
Oh, shit. Am I going to lose you again?
Are you gone again?
I'm dying again here.
Okay, well, I'll go back to Cleveland. Cut.
This is less fun than I wanted it to be.
Just stop talking.
I'm assuming that everybody can continue to hear me. I have no idea. Play Tristan McKenzie. I like the Guardian side of this one more than I like the Boston side. I have Boston 7th. I have them over-owned. Just play Tristan McKenzie. Everyone needs to listen to me here for this one.
So I wanted to mention on Cutter Crawford too. He's kind of similar to me to McKenzie in that he's a relatively low probability play because Cleveland's so difficult to strike out. but Crawford does have good strikeout stuff. He has got the fourth highest strikeout percentage on the slate as a starter so far this year. So if you're going to like an expensive team like the Dodgers that's popular and you need to save some ownership, Crawford does fit nicely into those lineups. But again, not somebody that I think you need to get a lot of. As far as the Cleveland side, they are getting some ownership, and I think they deserve it because for one, Crawford's a bit of an unknown, but for two, they're a pretty inexpensive team with the exception of Ahmed Rosario and Jose Ramirez. And Ramirez obviously is always one of the top third base options. Rosario gives you some upside as well. But you have a cheap Josh Naylor. You have cheap Franmil Reyes. Jimenez is only 3,800 batting fifth. Nolan Jones remains really inexpensive and projects to be an above average major league hitter. He's one of the top hitting prospects in baseball. So I understand why Cleveland's getting the ownership. I do think they're getting a little bit more than they deserve probably, but they are still a good value stack that also has plenty of upside. So I think Cleveland is good. I think I probably get the more Boston at less ownership. Josh is supposed to do a Yahoo read right now, and I'm not prepared for that. So going to just go ahead and skip that until he gets back, which hopefully will be before the end of the show. So the next game is Seattle at Houston. Logan Gilbert taking on Jose Urquidy. 8.5 total. Seattle plus 115 underdogs. I don't remember what I was going to say. So Logan Gilbert's another one of he's kind of like McKenzie to me, except the matchup is more difficult against Houston. Gilbert's a good pitcher. He's got a 23% strikeout percentage, 3.69 xFIP, but going up against Houston, certainly not a spot that I'm really looking to target. He's probably going a little bit under-owned. We have him projected for 2% ownership, but he's just a low probability pitcher too that I'm probably going to have difficulty getting to, just like I am with McKenzie. On the other side, though, with Houston, it's also, I think, tough to get there. They're one of those offenses where at low ownership, there's always some appeal, just because they have so much talent in their lineup. And right now they're only projected for 2.5% ownership, but they're also expensive. So it's kind of a similar spot to the Yankees where they're facing a good pitcher. They have a lot of upside, but it's just going to be tough to make lineups that I really like paying up for them as opposed to getting to the pitchers I want and going to some of these cheaper stacks that I like. Jose Urquidy, though, I mentioned him earlier. I mentioned him this morning. He looks interesting at his current ownership. Urquidy is not very good, but he's only projected for 8% ownership compared to around 20% on Kakuchi and Jamison Tyone in the same price range. 18% strikeout percentage for Urquidy, not all that different from Tyone's 19.7%. It's much different than Kikuchi's 25%, but the 4.48 xFIP for Urquidy is identical to Kakuchi. So you're talking about pretty similar talent levels overall between Urquidy, Kakuchi, and Tyone, and Urquidy just not getting nearly as much ownership. It's not a great matchup against Seattle. They don't strike out a ton. They have Julio Rodriguez back in the lineup, which obviously makes the lineup a lot better. But given the fact that ownership is there's just more ownership going to Kakuchi and Tyone, I do think Urquidy is a useful tournament piece just to kind of pivot away from that a little bit.
Adam, I'm going to assume that you transitioned to the Astros Mariners game, and in the middle of that, you did a read for Yahoo.
Yeah, man, I crushed the Yahoo read.
Yeah, I'm assuming you just pulled that run sheet right up and went straight down the middle for it, right?
Yep.
Okay. I went down, rebooted the modem, so I should be good. So have you talked hitting here, or was that just pitching for Astros Mariners?
I kind of just did it all.
Okay.
I mean,
There's not a lot to talk about from a hitting perspective.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like Gilbert and the Astros are just similar, where they're both really good, but they're both in tough spots. I think it's gonna be tough to get to either one, especially at their respective prices. Seattle has some upside offensively. I guess I hadn't talked about them because I talked about Urquidy at his ownership. The other side to that, though, is that Urquidy's not a great pitcher. He's allowed a 255 expected ISO to righties this year. Julio Rodriguez looks very, very, very good. Ty France at 4,700 looks fine. Suarez looks pretty good. So I don't mind the Seattle stack as a lower owned team to get to. 2% projected ownership right now, but I expect to have more Urquidy than anything else in this game.
Okay. Nope, no issues with Urquidy there. I think he just looks kind of similar to a couple of those guys, which I believe I heard you touching on as I finally was able to come back. I went downstairs and I was just like, I got to reboot the modem. You know, internet's being wonky. My mom was like, I was just on the internet. I was like, just trust me. I promise you.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I was like, I promise you, it's not working the way that I would like it to.
Frank Castle said below average Seattle offense. Not sure what you're
below average.
Yeah, that's
I have Seattle as the fifth best offense on today's slate.
yeah. I'll say their active roster has a 110 WRC plus. There's nothing in their lineup today that is bad. Like Rodriguez, it would be different if like Rodriguez were out because he obviously pulls that. But Rodriguez is good. France is good. Yeah, it's Jesse Winker. I've said it before, but he's been hitting into bad luck pretty much all season long. He's going to turn things around. Cal Raleigh has power. This is not a bad offense.
Dodgers, Astros, Blue Jays,
and by the way,
Yankees.
I did not do the Yahoo read. So
yeah, I know it's coming. I just didn't want to do it in the middle of everything. Dodgers, Astros, Blue Jays, Yankees, only teams with aggregate WRC plus is higher than the Mariners for today. So yeah, I don't. That's just a crazy take.
Somebody, I lost the name, but somebody said, can you stack the Astros with the Dodgers to offset ownership? If you have a $60,000 salary cap, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you should. You're probably playing Spencer Howard and Cutter Crawford at that point.
Right.
Okay, so I don't have anything really to say about Urquidy or Logan Gilbert. Both guys are just fine as far as I'm concerned. I don't have anything to add from a hitting perspective. What I do have to add, however, is a little chat about Yahoo. You see the banner at the top of the screen. This offer can get you 1 month of Stokastic Plus Platinum for free, and it ends July 31st. So if you do not take advantage of this, you will be SOL. And I don't think this one's coming back anytime soon, folks. So if you want to get that free month of Awesemo, Stokastic Plus Platinum, man, I've been pretty good about not saying the A word for a while, but unfortunately didn't work out right there. What you need to do to qualify, you got to be new to Yahoo. Sign up for an account using the link in the description of this video. Deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest. We will then reach out to you with a coupon code for that free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. We've got tons of tools behind the paywall that will help you out on your Yahoo endeavors. But seriously, today's the 28th. It ends on the 31st. You've got a couple days to do this because on August 1st, we're going to tell you to go pound sand. You don't get a free month anymore. Do it. And by the way, just in case I didn't make my point clear earlier, play Tristan Mckenzie. You shake your head like it's a preposterous notion. I can't with you.
No, I mean, it's fine. It's the kind of play I would have made when I was hand building lineups and not using like projections or data. What happened?
No, I'm just laughing at you just being like, it's the kind of play I would have made when I was shittier.
Yeah, pretty much. If you look at my roto tracker, those like 2017 to 2018 years where I got my ass kicked, those were the Tristan Mckenzie type years.
And then we started talking, and I was like, yo, you should just use data and not your own personal anecdotes. And then that helped.
There's like 2% truth to what you just said.
I don't know. I wish it was still pinned in Slack. You detailed it out pretty well to like one of the Slack channels back in the day.
No, I've made it clear you helped me a lot with Excel. Alex helped me more with my revamping my process.
I'm trying to take all of the credit for everything.
Instead of the
absolute no credit I deserve for anything.
Yeah, no, you answered like when I kind of learned from Alex and then decided I wanted to like add things and didn't know how to build them. You answered those questions.
Happy to help as much as I can. You ready to talk cores?
Yep.
Rockies and Dodgers. I got it at 5 runs for the Rockies and 69 for the Dodgers. Jose Urena going for Colorado. Tyler Anderson going for the Dodgers. Normally, I make a case for a pitcher in cores. That ain't today. I can't justify Urena. I certainly can't justify Jose Urena. I don't want to justify Tyler Anderson. Any pitching here?
No, I mean, I'm always less likely to go to guys in cores than you are. And here with Anderson at that price, it's just like I would go to Logan Gilbert or Tristan Mckenzie if I was trying to overpay for a pitcher.
You mean underpay for a pitcher? We'll start with the Rockies because I don't think there's all that much shit to talk about for the Dodgers. The Rockies are 5th in our top stack tool, 8th in ownership. I actually had them 3rd in top stack. I'm a little bit more interested in Colorado here than it seems like we are at the site. But either way, this seems like a positive leverage stack to get to. Do you like Colorado, even though they suck?
Yeah, to some extent. I mean, they've been fine in Colorado. That's to be expected. I know a couple of days ago when I looked, I don't have it in front of me right now, but it was like a 103 WRC plus and a 178 ISO, give or take, at home for the Rockies this year. The issue, I think, is the Basically, the trend that I was noticing in my lineups this morning, and I think it's likely that it holds through lock, is that I was basically either playing the Dodgers or going for value hitting so that I could get the pitchers that I wanted. And the Rockies don't cover either of those because they obviously are not the Dodgers and they don't have the same sort of value. Like there's no, outside of Jonathan Daza, there's no really cheap bats on Colorado. When you look at the other side of this game, yeah, the top of the order is expensive for the Dodgers, but you have a $2,100 five hitter. The entire 5 through 9 is $3,600 or $3,800 or less. So it's really easy to like offset the pricing with the Dodgers, whereas with the Rockies, you're pretty much paying legitimate prices across the board. Not that they're super expensive, but at least mid 4K prices across the board on a slate where there's pitching that I want to pay up for, at least relatively. Not that Ohtani is super expensive, but so that's one thing that's kind of holding me back on the Rockies and why I think I was getting to more like Philadelphia this morning, more Boston, like the value teams that weren't getting a ton of ownership. But I do agree with you that the Rockies are going under-owned here. If you can get to them, only 5% ownership. The highest projected owned guy on the team is Chris Bryant at 9%. So I think they're going under-owned. I just don't know how much I actually get to.
Okay. Where do you think they rank in the grand scheme of things for you, since we've kind of gone through all of the high end teams?
In terms of like teams that I actually get to?
Yeah.
Probably behind the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Guardians, the Phillies, the Red Sox.
Okay.
The Royals.
Okay.
And by Royals, I mean Vinny Pasquantino.
Sure. Well,
but again, it's like it's one of those teams where if I get there, I'm happy about it. I think they are a good team to stack. I don't think, based on what I was seeing this morning, at least, that they're a team I personally will be getting a lot of.
Alrighty. I can only imagine that the next team that I talk about is a team that you're going to personally get a lot of. First in top stack by a mile, by 2 miles. I mean, it's so far away that it's insane. 28.5% last I saw. They are in 34% of lineups. Most of this team is 25 to 30% owned, except for Justin Turner. And that's just sort of a quirk because there's two separate third basemen. So they're taking away from each other. I don't know what we say here. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago and we're going right back to it. They are so far and away the best stack that it makes no sense.
And the thing is, from people always just want to look at the highest owned team and say, oh, not going to play them. Like we were kind of
see it in chat right now.
Right. Like we were kind of joking about earlier. These salaries matter a lot. This would be totally different. This is a totally different conversation. Like the top of this order, you have Betts at 5,500, Turner at 56, Freeman at 58, Smith at 49. If 5 through 9 was just like 4,800 across the board or something like that, this conversation is entirely different because you'd be going to like, if we assume that the ownership, holds where it is now, but those prices are different, then you're talking about giving up some of the pitching. You're talking about giving up good one-offs and going to a really popular Dodgers team, whereas the alternative would be going to less expensive teams that have a lower probability of success, but as a result, you're able to get better one-offs, better secondary stacks with them. That's a completely different equation than when the team with a 7 implied run total has 5 guys that are $3,800 or less, because that means that you can play them with whatever the hell else you want. And those lineups are just so much better than what you're going to make with other teams. You're giving up a ton to get away from them. So that's the big difference. Back when DraftKings used to do a better job pricing, core slates would be kind of fun strategy-wise because you really had to make a trade-off, either stack cores and get shitty pitching or get good pitching and not be able to get the cores. Now it's just so easy to do both that you still obviously want to find ways to be contrarian within those stacks. For example, that's why I was mentioning Urquidy. I think he fits nicely with the Dodgers. I think using Cutter Crawford makes sense with the Dodgers. If you can somehow fit McKenzie with them, that also would make sense just from like an ownership standpoint. I mentioned Brady Singer as another type guy. Like any of these talented low-owned pitchers in tough spots makes sense to pair with the Dodgers. Pairing the Dodgers with the Tigers or with the Red Sox or with the Phillies, like these other relatively low-owned teams, all of that is fine. Running 5-mans and throwing in 3-man Dodgers, all of that is fine. But it's really, really difficult, especially if you're playing multiple lineups, to say that you shouldn't be playing the Dodgers here because they're the far and away top value. They're the far and away top the team most likely to succeed. If they were all really expensive, then you would be talking about, well, you still need them to go score, 7, 8, 9 runs, whatever. At these prices, they're just so likely, even if the Dodgers score like 4 runs, you wouldn't need a full stack most likely, but chances are there's going to be 1 or 2 guys from the Dodgers that end up being really useful pieces at these prices. So the value component is just what makes it so difficult to get away from them. If you're playing, a handful of lineups in a large field tournament, yeah, maybe you can make a stronger case for just pretending the Dodgers don't exist and hoping they somehow fail. But even in single entry, like I said earlier, there's a good chance that I'm, just doing like a 5-man Boston, 3-man Dodger stack or something.
Yeah, it's just, they're like impossible to even talk about. It's so preposterous that this exists, and it's so broken. I don't even know what to say. Like none of the ownership's even crazy. It makes these slates not fun. I'm really excited to not be playing baseball, so I don't have to deal with it for 2 days.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we talked about it a lot before, and we try and reference the top pitchers tool or the top stacks tool to kind of quantify it to some extent. It's not about just raw ownership.
Right.
You have to, at least to some extent, be factoring in chances of success versus that ownership. And sure, the Dodgers across the board are getting a bunch of ownership. Cody Bellinger is projected to be the lowest owned guy on this team at 23%. That does mean if you're stacking 5 of them together, you're getting a lot of ownership and you're probably going to want to be different elsewhere. But all of these guys across the board deserve somewhere in probably like the 20 to 25% range at least. So yeah, it's not like they're wildly overowned, even if they are a little bit overowned. And it's also just like to kind of think about it. I know Alex talks about it a lot. I talk about it a lot. I'm typically trying to play the best combination I can of projection and lack of ownership. And it goes back to what I was just saying about how easy it is to build strong lineups around the Dodgers. It makes it so that the gap in projection between what you can do with Dodger stacks and what you can do with every other stack is so big that I'm going to be willing to just eat some ownership there because I have to give up so much to get away from that ownership.
So, weird question. I'm just going to hit you with it quickly because we only have 2 games left. Do you expect the Dodgers to be more owned by 150 maxers in the big contest in comparison to say the mini max, or less owned?
More, without a doubt.
Okay. So do I. So for those of you that may have alternate opinions that aren't very good, use that as a barometer. I think that would be better than whatever is in your brains.
There is
cash is 5 Dodgers, right? There's like no way around that.
Cash, yeah. Especially now that we have this lineup too. Like, this morning I was expecting Gavin Lux to be hitting 9th. He's hitting 6th at 3,500. You got another 2K guy in there in McKinstry. It's just a matter of which 5.
All right.
So fully expecting to lose the head-to-head and then have this guy mocking me because I stacked cores like he did the other day.
I hope you'll win again, too. 4.5 run implied total for the Angels, 3.1 for the Rangers. The pitching version of Dodgers and cores going for the Angels, Spencer Howard going for the Rangers. Ohtani is 70% owned, and because he's 8,900, he should be.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to mention just quickly on the Dodgers. I think that, the same concept applies on FanDuel where they're the top value team and clearly the top stack. It is at least worth mentioning it's a little bit different roster construction wise because Ohtani is expensive, but I still think that there's enough value and the Dodgers are cheap enough that it's still basically the same conversation. Just worth noting that you're not getting the free square in Ohtani there. But speaking of Ohtani, I had 100% this morning. I expect to be around there again. It's a broken price on a slate where there's not a lot of pitching that I like. And the pitching I do like is already getting ownership. That's kind of the thing is, yes, Ohtani is projected for a ton of ownership on DraftKings, like 70%. And that is a number that makes me uncomfortable. But when you're thinking about what the alternatives are, obviously Zack Wheeler, Alex Wood are the first 2 guys that come to mind. 30% and 30 or 28% and 32% for those 2. So they're already getting the ownership they deserve. Kakuchi's getting the ownership he deserves. So is Taillon. There's no real pitching that I'm looking at and saying like, oh, this guy gives me similar upside to Ohtani. Like, for example, I mentioned Urquidy being probably the low-owned pitcher that I get to the most, but it's not as an Ohtani pivot because we're talking about a guy that has a strikeout percentage nearly 20 points lower than Ohtani. It's not like they're not playing the same sport. It's more so pivoting to Urquidy off of Wood or Tyone or Kakuchi. So I fully just expect to get to a ton of Ohtani. He projects so much better than every other pitcher on the slate. If he pitches poorly, he pitches poorly. Like, it's baseball. It happens. I know Sean V was mentioning this morning that he's struggled against Texas in the past, but I just don't care at this price tag. On FanDuel, I mentioned it with Wheeler. I do think there's at least a little bit more interesting conversation because he's in the same price range as Wheeler. He's getting more ownership. He deserves more ownership, but you can pivot to Wheeler pretty easily. It's just, on DraftKings, they're not even the same price.
I mentioned that I had a lower owned play for today earlier. Do you have any interest in paying down for Spencer Howard? He's 7% owned or something in that neighborhood, 5,200. I think he's got the highest likelihood of being a good value option. There's so many strikeouts in the Angels lineup. They're not a good lineup in general. Why isn't he getting more love?
Yeah, I think, I got around 6 or 7% this morning too. I do think he's a pretty solid option. He's the best pay down option, I think, because he's facing the Angels and there's just so many strikeouts. The flip side is that he's not very good. And it also goes back, everything just goes back to the Dodgers pricing and Shohei Ohtani pricing, depending on what you're talking about. If the Dodgers were 5K across the board, Spencer Howard would be really popular and he'd be a really good play. With the Dodgers pricing, it kind of just becomes like, oh, well, I can stack the Dodgers with Spencer Howard or I can stack the Dodgers with Alex Wood. I'm probably just going to go Alex Wood.
Interesting. Like, I would rather get to Howard than Wood. I think Wood is a problem today. Not a problem. That's not the right way to say it, but like, his ownership feels weird to me in relationship. That's a lot. And I don't think the gap is that big.
Okay, well, but like, if you don't like Wood, just use a different pitcher. Like, Spencer Howard.
It's not that I don't like Wood. Like, he should be getting ownership for sure.
Yeah, no, but my point is, like, you can, because I'm sure some people in chat probably think Alex Wood isn't a good play, whatever. That isn't my point. My point is Spencer Howard projects for like 11 DraftKings points. If the Dodgers were expensive, that would be really useful at 5,200. There's obviously upside there against the Angels. The problem is the Dodgers are cheap, and there's enough other cheap offenses you can go to that it just becomes, in a lot of your lineups, saying either, okay, well, do I want this team with Spencer Howard, or do I want it with Justin Steele, Logan Gilbert, Brady Singer, Yusei Kikuchi, Urquidy, Wood, like whoever you like out of that group. It's just that it's so easy to get to them instead of Howard.
It's fair. Totally fair. Stupid hitter pricing. We're not rostering the Rangers. It doesn't appear. Do you see any viability there for leverage?
That's not my strategy.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time going there because, and it's like Alex and I talked about yesterday with Scherzer and the Yankees. It was like, the Yankees certainly could get to Scherzer and make it so he has like a mediocre start, but there's a big difference between that happening and the Rangers actually like winning you a slate.
Very true. Angels are 11th in top stacks, 6th in ownership. You can't roster Ohtani. The rest of this lineup is absolute dog shit. I think this is probably the worst lineup you could roster since you can't have Ohtani.
I mean, the only thing that's nice is that they are really cheap. I was kind of surprised I didn't get to a little bit more this morning because Taylor Ward is cheap, Jared Walsh is cheap, Stassi's cheap, Marsh is actually hitting 6, so that's a nice value there. And Howard has been just flat out garbage this year and really for his entire major league career. Since 2020, 188 expected ISO to lefties, 178 to righties. So far this year, limited sample, but 258 to righties, 260 to lefties. There is power in the Angels lineup. It's just that they can't hit the ball. But to your point, not being able to roster Ohtani makes it really tough. It's not a great park to hit in. I think it's more likely I get to some like, one-offs or mini stacks that have like Marsh, Walsh, Stassi or something like that.
All right. Let's close it out. Giants and Cubs. Alex Wood pulling 30% ownership. Justin Steele pulling 3%. Wood at 7,500 just is going to be good. It's a good strikeout matchup against Chicago. Happy to always have people in San Francisco. Feels a little high for Wood, but clearly one of the better paydown options you can get.
Yeah, I think he's mispriced on DraftKings, just not as glaring because Shohei Ohtani is completely ruining it. But he's got the third best xFIP on the slate at 3.13. He has a 24.3% strikeout percentage against righties this year, which you're going to get a predominantly right-handed lineup. 23% strikeout percentage, 158 expected ISO, just solid numbers. Pitching in a park that's good for run prevention. There's strikeouts in the Cubs lineup. There's also power, but this park knocks down home runs pretty well. So it's just Wood projects like the clear top guy in that price range. If you want to, if you're looking to, like, if you're stacking the Dodgers or stacking popular teams, I am certainly pivoting away from Wood before I'm pivoting away from Ohtani.
Yeah, I completely agree. Do you want to go to the Giants? 9th in top stacks, 7th in ownership. They're basically the same, but they're facing a lefty. They got 7 righties in the lineup right now. Is this a spot you want to go? 4.3.
Not really. One, you have the pinch hit risk that we always talk about, but 2, Justin Steele's pretty solid. His strikeout numbers take a pretty big hit against right-handed hitters. 18.7% strikeout percentage against righties compared to 28.7 against lefties, but still only a 104 expected ISO against right-handed hitters this year. Now you're getting him in San Francisco. I actually think he's another guy that you can kind of just use, not as a priority, but as somebody where, if you have a popular team and you want to offset some ownership, just throw in Justin Steele as an SP2 at low ownership. I think I probably have more Steele than I do Giants.
That works for me. Sum it up. Favorite stacks.
Dodgers, Red Sox, Phillies, maybe. I don't know if I'll get to the Phillies as much now that I don't have Real Muto.
Favorite pitchers.
Ohtani, Wheeler, Wood. Of the low-owned pitchers, I think I probably get to Urquidy the most.
Hit that like button on your way out the door, everybody. Live before lock coming up next. And if you do anything today after listening to this show, it should be this. Play Tristan Mckenzie. We're out of here. Peace.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. I'm, of course, Eric Lindquist. Hit that like button, subscribe button, and notification bell. That way you can know when anything is going live here at Odd Shopper, the best spot, the one-stop shop for all of your betting needs, whether it's the projections we have on the page just when you go and sign up, or whether it's going to be just finding and shopping for the best lines available. We have it all for you guys. And we also have a BetMGM promo that's going to be expired on August 1st. So I cannot tell you how important it is. If you have been thinking about getting $200 free, which I hope you've been thinking about getting $200 free, all you do is use promo code Lindy, Lindy at checkout. Click in the link in the video description box below. There's a nice little spot that'll link you right to BetMGM. But use promo code Lindy at checkout. Deposit $10, play $10 on any money line period, and you'll get $200 free put into play. So take advantage of that offer. And of course, we're here to talk leans, lakes, and locks. The leans, it means, hey, I don't know if I've made up my mind on this yet, or there's no line available, which we have most of them, except for the first 2 of the night. We have locks, which are the best thing that I can possibly give you. It's incredible. And the likes, which is the middle of the road between the 2, just gets the standard vote of approval. So, guys, we're going to get into the picks now. Let's ride. We kick things off in Cincy, and maybe it's just me, but it feels like this Reds team, you just kind of know everybody's going to get traded at the deadline, so they might want to show out. And who can blame them? Because you're auditioning for the Dodgers, for the Yankees, Astros, Brewers, Twins, Braves. Sounds a lot better than being a part of the Reds team right now. Anyways, there's a number of Miami starters that could be taking the mound tomorrow. The fifth back-end starter was Max Meyer till he got hurt. Two outs into the game the other night. That was brutal. And it sounds like it'll be Daniel Castano coming in, but there's no line out yet here. But how you feeling, baby Jordan Klein? Okay.
Hey, dog.
It's okay. I get that. What is going on, everybody? Happy MLB Live Before Lock. I don't know why I said it that way. Maybe because everybody wished me happy birthday yesterday, you sick bastards. I'm Eric Lindquist. It's not my birthday yesterday. It will not be my birthday for a while, like 2 months. That's math. But either way, Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Good to have you guys here. We've got almost 800 of you guys talking this Thursday baseball slate. 8 games to go. I got my buddy Greg. I will say, one of the constants in my life, Greg Ehrenberg, at G Ehrenberg DFS, the guy, even in the midst of his trolling, he's kind of swell. I enjoy spending afternoons with him. How you doing, my dude?
You know, Eric's old age is catching up with him when he doesn't even know when his old birthday is. Like that's really the issue here. So Eric, as people know, and they sent him good wishes yesterday. Eric turned 40 yesterday, and he's so old and out of it. He doesn't even think it was his birthday. He doesn't know when his birthday is. He doesn't know what his age is. But thank you to everybody from myself and Eric also for really making yesterday special. How were your DMs yesterday?
Not great, Greg. Not great. I had a lot of people. I will say I didn't know so many people followed me on Instagram because for whatever reason, a lot of people were like scared to hit me up on Twitter because there were a million birthday messages there. But on Instagram, I had like 11 or 12 people reach out. And I'm like, I don't have that many Instagram followers, but they felt more comfortable going over there and being like, wait, is it really your birthday? Hey, is it your birthday? And I'm like, dude, my birthday is in my Twitter bio. It's literally right there. It's been there since 2009 when I joined here. Like, what are we talking about here, people?
Yeah, well, you have the wrong birthday listed, but aside, here's the important. Did you gain a few extra Twitter followers from yesterday?
Got a couple, thank you.
There we go. All right, so look, believe it or not, that was kind of the goal of the whole thing. So mission accomplished.
Well, go to @Eric Lindquist. Maybe you can do the same thing with views on your VOD. How does that sound?
Hey, we're doing just fine over. You know, what would help though also is if I didn't constantly have people going away on vacation, have to fill content for it. You know,
this is true.
Because I actually my entire schedule got thrown off this week because so the MLB strategy show, I used to do them and then I got taken off them so I could do my betting videos early in the morning. It doesn't now. I just do all of them every morning because everybody's always away.
Well, shout out Chris Karen because we got to meet everybody in Chicago. So now I get to actually know who I like in person and know who I hate. I don't hate anybody at our company. We have a great group of guys, great group of girls, they're working tirelessly here to make you guys some of the best content here at Stokastic and, to take care of us. But either way, what I'm getting at, Chris was like, hey, Eric, you're doing great on your MLB stuff. We would love to give you Fridays. You can take it off of the MLB Live before Lock Deeper Dive. I was like, sounds great. Literally the next day, hey, by the way, everybody's gone on Friday. Yeah. So tomorrow I'm on the Deeper Dive with Neil Orfield. I'm looking forward to that. Sorry, I have a cough drop and I'm about to die. Oh.
Yeah, a little bit too much celebrating for his. Well, actually, you know what it probably is? It's that because Lofty is such a bad influence on Eric. When we were on our trip in Chicago, Eric just decides, you know what? She's not watching the show.
Go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So Lofty sees Eric sees Lofty smoking a cigarette and goes, that looks cool. I should smoke 3 packs of those over the next couple of days. So there you go. So I actually do think that's why the cough drop is needed today.
Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, please, everybody. Looking forward to having a great show. Should be enjoyable. Let's do this thing, all right, shall we? I sound like the old lady from The Simpsons, don't I?
You got to do the button press also.
There it is. Yeah, let's get to this slate, shall we? Greg, what do you see that stands out on this 8-gamer today? Looks like the Dodgers are popular.
So, yeah, the Dodgers are popular because this is a slate where they're playing at Coors Field against Jose Urena, who, despite some okay results from an ERA standpoint, is not good. And so you look at the Dodgers right now in our top stack tool, they're by far the team that's both the most popular and also the highest top stack odds by a mile. And then from a pitching standpoint, because DraftKings just continually fucks up everything that has to do with Shohei Ohtani, his pricing is incredibly incorrect as well.
You're going to flash that on the screen, aren't you, Jordan Klein?
What is Jordan flashing?
No, why would you do it right off the bat? I knew you were going to do it right off the bat. Why would you do that? Dude.
What did he put
Ditches
up on
get
screen?
stitches is what I think.
Nice. There we go.
Oh, my
Jordan.
God. If you want to see more of me smoking them cigarettes, we got, what? Not enough likes. The answer is just not enough likes. We need 300 plus. Just like the amount of cigarettes I might have smoked. But It's fine.
I actually do think you made yourself sick, though.
That's definitely likely. Guys, let's get to it. Smoke's just ripping darts, bruh. Don't mind me. Let's talk pitching. Shohei Ohtani seems cheap, Greg.
Yeah, and I looked at the ownership first thing this morning, and there was a part of me that was like, oh, could I get away playing Shohei Ohtani? And I started running lineups. The answer is no, I absolutely cannot. And the other thing, too, when you look at him, also, one thing that's really annoying is the way his pitching stats are mixed in with his hitting stats. So it's kind of hard to look through his game logs. But he just rarely has bad starts anymore. He has not had a start with less than 10 strikeouts since like June 14th or something ridiculous. And even in his last start, where it wasn't really on him, it was arguably last start was as good as he's been all year. He did give up 6 runs. But it's because he just got left in the game forever. He came out in the 6th inning. He clearly had nothing left in the tank. He was in some high leverage spots, and he was jacking up to like 101. He was throwing north of 100 miles per hour to get out of some high leverage spots. The reason being is because the Angels suck so much that Ohtani knows this is what has to happen for them to win a game. He has to be the pitcher. He has to pitch a shutout, and he has to hit a home run. If those things don't happen, the Angels lose. So there's a tremendous amount of pressure on him to basically be perfect when he's a starting pitcher. And he just started to get tired, and he had nothing left, and they wouldn't take him out of the game. So he got battered in that 6th inning by the Braves, but he was nearly perfect and unhittable before that point. And that's basically been the case with all of his starts as of late. You have to go all the way back to June 2nd against the Yankees to actually find a start where he wasn't great. So there's a whole lot of security here. And I don't know if it's because of his hitting stats that fucks up the DraftKings pricing algorithm, but they have not had his pitching price correct basically all season. Like, has there ever been a slate where we've seen Ohtani being appropriately priced as a pitcher?
No. And I mean, part of this too, like the Atlanta one, he pitched great, as you said, got hit up at the end of it. And maybe that prevented it from getting fixed in the correct way, but something tells me it has something to do with him appearing as a batter or something of that nature, where it doesn't have like the game log going the correct way and nobody's there manually changing it. So it probably has these random blips where it's like, oh, 0, 0, 0. Well, he wasn't pitching those actual games. So maybe it's not updating the way that it does for every other pitcher.
That's what I'm thinking also, because like FanDuel has it figured out. You go over to FanDuel, he's the most expensive pitcher, and he's also still the most popular. So just for reference, Shohei Ohtani is $11,100 on FanDuel and is still projected for 36% ownership. So he's crazy chalk at 11.1. DK is like, nah, 8,900. So he's unavoidable. Like he's totally unavoidable to me. He's really super, super popular. And I mean, sure, there would be a breaking point if he was like 80 or 90% owned. But even around 64%, that's not it for me. I'm loading up on Ohtani.
I have 100%, so that seems loaded up, right?
Yeah, that's about as much as you. The only way you can get more of Shohei Ohtani
is use my wife's name.
Yeah, if you use your wife's name, or if DraftKings and FanDuel figured out a way to make this guy a pitcher and a hitter like he should, because then you'd be able to play him multiple times in the same lineup. But because that isn't figured out for reasons beyond me, just a pitcher, and any amount you have of Shohei Ohtani, it's cool with me as long as you have him in your lineups. The only thing I would say you're doing wrong with Ohtani is if you're like, I have 20% of him, then I'd say that's not enough. There's no upper bound amount that I would have a problem with.
Honey, we're maxing the $15 tonight. Let's go. Sit down. We need to talk a little baseball so you can be informed when you get interviewed. Let's do the thing. Also, can we talk about that? Why wasn't there, like, again, bad thing to do. They did a terrible thing. It's awful. But what it comes down to is that why didn't they have a discussion about like teaching her basic concepts of football so that if she were to get interviewed, be like, oh yeah, no, they're my lineups.
Well, for one, I don't think he actually ever thought he was going to win $1 million.
That might be it.
Right? Like you kind of, I don't think that was his expectation. And then probably didn't expect it to become as public as this. I like him. He follows me on Twitter. That's my grounds for some.
You know who doesn't anymore?
Sal Vetri.
Sal Vetri doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
I still love that I found that out this week. 10 days later, unfollowed you. He must have just found your post so appalling. Also, he probably only follows people with thread emojis in the description box. Let's be serious.
It's probably also. Let me look at his.
I hate
threads.
I know.
So much.
Can we all just agree that threads are annoying and they're not fun and they shouldn't be the future? I don't understand them. I can't. Like, if you're going to put your content in order, that's great. If it's going to be like, hey, here's this for this week. Here's the top stacks. Here's this. If you're going to like order it that way, sounds great. But if you're going to tell me the same information thing bit by bit by bit by bit, and I'm going to have to scroll all the way to the bottom to figure out what it is that you're fucking talking about, I don't want to deal with your crap.
And one other thing too, this is not pointing out anybody specifically, but if you follow 67 people on Twitter and you have 54,700 followers, once again, nobody specific, there's a good chance you're a douche. There's a good chance if you feel the need to unfollow people because like, oh no, I have 70 followers, that's too many, it needs to be less, or you follow 70 people, it's too.
I will say I'm one of Wobb's few, the Instagram guys that he follows. It's because of my puppy, but it's fine.
No, yeah, how many people does he follow?
A bazillion on Twitter.
Oh, I was going to say
I'm in the exclusive Instagram club. It's my dude.
I tried to look him up to find him, and then I remember to have him blocked.
Well, that's awkward. Let's talk about the rest of the pitching board, shall we? We've got Zack Wheeler up there sitting at 10-2 on the DraftKings board. I don't find it all that cost prohibitive to get up to him. I did hear Josh on the previous show say Tristan Mckenzie and Zack Wheeler should be equally owned, which broke my brain a little bit, but okay, we'll talk about it. Logan Gilbert's up there in the really ridiculously tough matchup that he's got, even though he succeeded at home, 8 strikeouts against him, 6-inning pitch. So in Sean V's world, we just got to go back to Logan Gilbert, I'm sure. But talk to me about these these 9K and up guys. Is there anybody you're getting to prominently that isn't Zack Wheeler? And then how much interest do you have in Zack Wheeler?
Yeah, so by the way, I don't know what I'm going to do with my lineups yet. We've got 42 minutes here on the show to figure it out where we could talk through it together.
That was me yesterday. I had no idea what I was going to do.
I have no clue. I was trying to make my lineups before this and I was like, I don't know. So yeah. I think I might lean towards just playing the Dodgers at offense. There's just not offenses I really like today. And I still want to play Ohtani. So I think what I'm inclined to do is get really contrarian with my other pitching option. So I don't have an issue with, say, like Zack Wheeler, Alex Wood, just in general on this slate. But the way I'm building my lineups, I think I'm going to look to go elsewhere and probably go cheaper. So Tristan Mckenzie at 4% owned. He has pitched fairly well as of late. Their strikeout upside. I don't mind him. It's not going to be my primary choice. I don't agree that he should be the same ownership as Zack Wheeler, though.
Yeah, that'd be crazy to me if he was. Also, weather-wise, we're still looking like that's going to be an okay spot for pitching because that was another concern that we had was looked like it had a chance of a delay in the middle of this game. I don't know. It just feels a little risky, and I think it's a little unnecessary. I have 100% Shohei Ohtani and pitcher on DK on FanDuel, 60-something% of him. I'll finish that up here, but I'm playing both sites simply because Shohei Ohtani is just that good of a play, and I want to be over whatever the number is, and I'll let everybody else try to, if that's 25%, 35% of the field on DK that wants to not play him in lineups, I will just take every share that I possibly can. And then looking at the rest of the board, I don't find all that much appealing. Like for me, I'm playing the top 2 pitchers, and I think that there are some contrarian offenses that aren't the Dodgers that I think we should have a lot of interest in, and it could get awkward. I'm with you. The Dodgers are kind of unavoidable. So there we go. We're going to be playing some of them. I don't mind getting to a little bit of Logan Gilbert, but it's a really hard sell. It's more of just his talent level. He's been giving up a lot of hard hit this year, which is a problem. Only a 23.4% K percentage, but that doesn't mean he can't have an outlier spot start in some of these places. And Jake Myers, Martin Maldonado, Jeremy Pena, Chas McCormick, all 24% plus K percentages. That's enough meat on the bone where he could do the same thing he did last time out. 6, 8 Ks, find a way to not limit or to not be giving up home runs to the likes of Alvarez, Tucker, all those crazy lefties. And maybe we could be in business there, but feels pretty unnecessary in anything more than like 4 or 5% of lineups.
Yeah, I would much rather play Tristan Mckenzie than Logan Gilbert. Okay. And they're both so low owned that I don't think I really need to get exposure to both of them. Mckenzie would be my preference. It's a much easier matchup against Boston than what Logan Gilbert has against Houston.
I agree with that. Gilbert I'm scared off by the weather, I think might be the right way of saying it. I'm worried about like an in-game delay and then really being screwed.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, neither one of them are priorities for me anyway. But let's see, where are we at with the Cleveland Boston weather? Let's look this up. Let me pull up the old Google and see what we currently have for a weather report, because this is going to be important. It's
He's
also
looking at radar, sir.
Yeah, it's also pouring.
Mr. Radar. You don't get
which
that
is
reference. It's okay.
close to New York. All right, so we are looking for Boston weather. What's the latest? Boston, Massachusetts, United States. To be honest, it doesn't look that bad.
Really?
So there's a chance of rain, but it's at the start of the game, and there's another chance of rain towards the tail end of the game. But that's around 9 p.m. So where this would come into play is if the game has to start late, and then there would also be the rain later on. If the game starts on time, I don't know if we have to worry about an in-game delay. We would have to worry about the game potentially ending early, though.
Look at that. Jordan Klein just getting down with it. MLB player projections completely free today. Enjoy. Yeah, it's Doppler radar. Getting it all done. Do you guys like any pitcher 7.3K and below? We will get there. We will get there, my friend. But yes, all the player projections, lovely. Up there on the screen. As much as Greg and I have opinions, the data here at Stokastic is even better. There's ways to get that. I don't know. Promo code MLB Live if you go and sign up here for a week. We'll talk about that in a second, but let's round out the pitching conversation here as you guys are able to look at those projections completely free to you today on the site, stokastic.com. But below Shohei Ohtani, that's kind of a BS, like in like before Christ. It's like below Shohei, BS, which is kind of what they all are here below it. Alex Wood's getting a ton of ownership. Yusei Kakuchi, I cannot possibly get behind something like that. But who are the pitchers or pitcher that you have the most exposure to underneath there?
So underneath Shohei Ohtani. I mean, the answer is Alex Wood, but I feel like I need to give this answer relative to ownership because like Alex Wood's really popular. So if I have, 25% of Alex Wood, it's less than the field, but it would still be the answer. But in terms of going with somebody way off the board, assuming the weather looks okay, which is still iffy, I think the answer is going to be Cutter Crawford for me, because I do feel like what I want to play, because I want to play the Dodgers. I want to play Shohei Ohtani. That is just so much chalk to eat. I need to be contrarian somewhere else with secondary stacks, secondary starting pitchers. And to me, I think the answer is going to be Cutter Crawford. We've seen pretty good stuff out of him this year. Expected ERA 3.95. His FIP is 3.53. He has a 27% K rate. The Guardians offense, it's kind of mid, right? They have Jose Ramirez. Outside of him, it's not like there's that many hitters that we're terrified of. So I've had some success playing Cutter Crawford as a massive contrarian play this year. And I think this is one of the more sensible ways to differentiate lineups and also find upside.
How about my GOAT yesterday, Nolan Jones, 21 on DK. What an absolute GOAT he was. You know what didn't go well was when I went from fourth in the $4 to like 64th because of fucking what's his face from
Bobby
Boston.
Dahlbeck.
Bobby Dahlbeck, just the absolute woe. And this is a guy, I have had your back for how long, Bobby Dahlbeck, and you decide to double dong out of the middle of nowhere and ruin my day. Thanks, buddy. He was popular too. Yeah, it was horrific. When the ball left the bat, I just kind of like, I was done. I was done with the day. I was done. It was not fun. Paid like $80. Way to go, team. Good job, Eric. But let's continue on, shall we? Any other pitchers? Because I mean, this Yusei Kakuchi thing, we'll get to the stacks here and the individual hitters, and I have a lot of Detroit interest. I will throw that out from the get-go. They're a team that is scattered throughout my lineups in both 5-man iterations and a lot of 2 and 3 mans, which leads me, I guess, to the super chat, which I promise I'll touch on Mr. Nice Guy here in a second, but I want to finish pitching conversation. We can't possibly play Kakuchi with what we've seen, his negative 0.5 WAR on the season as a starting pitcher. I mean, this guy has been abysmal.
It helps at least that his ownership has come down, because earlier in the day when I was doing the strategy show with Adam, Kakuchi was projected for, I think it was 26% ownership, somewhere around there. At that kind of ownership, I was like, oh, I can't play him at all. 17%, there's at least strikeout upside, and 17 is much better than what the number was before. It's a number to still be underweight to the field too. But if he was going to be close to that 30% number, he was going to be out of my player pool entirely with no consideration. At least at 17%, you can make a case for him because of the strikeout upside. The runs are an issue when he gets hit. When he is getting hit, he gets hit very hard and gives up a lot of runs. But he's cheap with a 25% K rate against a middling offense. So with that in mind, Kakuchi is viable, but I don't like him as much as the field does.
Yeah, field absolutely loves Kakuchi, and I'm like, all right, please play him so I can get more leverage with my Detroit bats. That would be great. I have a little bit of Urquidy, but I'm not in love with him the way Adam is. That's for damn sure. Justin Steele, I like as a real life pitcher. I can't really get there for tournaments today. I don't think there's enough upside there. Cutter Crawford, I don't mind what you said there. Decent enough ceiling that could exist. And he's just cheap enough where you want to play the expensive Dodger bats. Here you go. He's 6.1K. So I don't mind that shout out, but I want to talk about Spencer Howard to round out this conversation, and he's 5,200. He's gaining 5% ownership, so there's that. This guy is the number one prospect in the Texas organization. I think I've just been playing him a little bit more than I should have in some of these spots. I don't think I'm going to be getting away from Ohtani for sure, 100%. So I'm playing him 100%, but Zack Wheeler, getting to a little bit of Alex Wood, a little bit of Urquidy. I don't know if I really need to get down to Spencer Howard, but he's got 4+ pitches. Seems like he's figured out stuff at AAA. It's just not translating. Do you think it could maybe translate here against this Angels team and be serviceable for tonight?
I mean, saying he has 4+ pitches, I think is pretty generous.
He does in AAA. When you look at his AAA stuff, the guy is generating crazy swing and misses. Like it's north of a 30% K rate. And then he shows up in the bigs and it's 17.5%. I have no idea. I haven't seen this large of a disparity. Like we always see the strikeout rate drop a little bit, unless you're Spencer Strider, in which case you don't even count because you're not even real life. But this is such a stark disparity. And even the last 2 years when he's been called up randomly at the end of seasons, a 4.42 expected ERA, 4.66 expected ERA. He's up to a 6.58 expected ERA at the bigs. You can't get a whole lot better of a spot than facing the Angels in Anaheim if you're going to be on the road anywhere. San Francisco would be better, but I think I got to take a couple shots. Please talk me out of this, though. I'd love that.
Yeah, he's just been terrible.
Okay,
I mean,
cool.
Like you said, it happens not that uncommon. Like look at Mitch Keller's minor league numbers. He's been a guy who's crushed in the minor leagues with strikeout rates north of 30%. And can't do shit at the big league level. You know what's funny is there's a guy in DFS I used to play all the time who sucked, but had really good minor league numbers and then eventually put it together. It was also a Pirates pitcher. It was Tyler Glasnow. Do you remember Do you remember Glasnow's minor league numbers?
Yeah.
He was unhittable. And then he sucked when he first got called up.
Well,
to the
he had
big
a
leagues.
walk problem when he got called up. He just couldn't stop walking guys.
I think I remember him also giving up a lot of hard contact though.
I remember walks for some reason.
His first full season, he had a 7.69 ERA and a 6.28 expected ERA. He had 18% home run to fly ball rate. He walked a bunch of guys too, but he just sucked. And it was the same thing for me. I was like, look at those minor league numbers. I don't put too much stock into Spencer Howard right now. I've played Spencer Howard a few times this year. It hasn't gone well. And then you watch him pitch and he just doesn't generate any swing and misses. He doesn't project particularly well either. It's the Angels. I mean, if Zach Greinke struck them out, maybe Spencer Howard could as well. I don't know if I don't want to play. No, I'm not playing Spencer Howard. Not doing it.
You're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about it because I know I need a contrarian pitcher to play.
I think he's the guy.
I'm starting to get concerned about Cutter Crawford and the weather.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the weather big time there. I keep looking at it and it looks very, very bad, my friends. It looks like an in-game delay bad. It doesn't look, I think it's going to start on time. And I think that's the worst case scenario for playing pitchers here.
Yeah, let's see. Is there anybody else that I would feel okay taking a shot on for cheap?
I think I'm going to play 15% Spencer Howard with the Dodgers. I think I'm going to do it.
Yeah, Justin Steele, pretty mid this year. Can't get behind him. I would like it to be Cutter Crawford. I guess I like Spencer Howard better than Zach Thompson, Tyler Alexander, or Jose Urena, obviously.
What a vote of confidence.
Yeah, but those are the options.
I know.
The options are Cutter Crawford with essentially shitty weather, which is out of our control. There's Spencer Howard. He sucks. but he has a good matchup. There's Zach Thompson. He sucks and has a tough matchup. Tyler Alexander sucks, bad matchup. Jose Urena. All right. Spencer Howard. Of these players, I think I could get behind Spencer Howard being the best punt SP2 on DK.
We're still not over the happy birthday, Eric thing, are we? We're not going to be over it today. We're just going to keep doing the same thing.
Happy birthday to you?
Same shit, different day. Look what you've done. You've made a fool of everyone. When it seemed like such fun.
Ryan Ranabom in on it. Kenny Wayne. Happy birthday, Eric. I do mean that sincerely.
Gee, thanks, guys. Check out Stokastic for my birthday. If you do anything, if you want to get me anything, sign up using promo code MLB Live. That would be the nice thing for you guys to do. We got Jordan Klein helming the MLB Live Before Lock show. He's playing sick. This is his Jordan flu game over here. Jordan's flu game. Jordan Klein, also MJ, but he's got a Kobe Bryant jersey behind him because he's sacrilegious. But MLB Live, that is the promo code we're looking for. 50% off Stokastic plus Platinum. Would you like the top pitchers tool? Would you like the top stacks tool? Would you like the best baseball tools, bar none? Stuff showing up on mobile. Just saying, it's all coming. It's all in the works, baby. If you want to check it out as soon as it drops, which will be so soon, just letting you know, 1 week completely 50% off. Not completely free, but 50% off Stokastic Plus using promo key. That's weird. MLB Live. Stop guessing, start winning, and join us at Stokastic Plus today. Plus, golf projections, showdown projections for this weekend. I'm going to need them. I don't have enough fee now, but such is life. Let's continue on. God, that's the same picture. You said you had more. You're just whatever.
Oh, if you want, it seems like Eric's asking for more, if we're being honest here.
I'm not.
Yeah, J-Dog, he wants more. Why are you posting the same picture? He wants to see more pictures of himself.
Let's talk stacks. The Dodgers are popular, Greg.
Yeah, for obvious reasons. The only thing that I think people would push back against, because this is what came up in the strategy show this morning, is a lot of people said, why would I play a chalky Dodgers team when Jose Urena shut them down in his last start? Well,
they
one
didn't
individual
say that for real, right?
It was a very popular take in chat this morning.
Oh my God. Guys.
So first of all, one game, it should not really dictate anything, decisions you make. The other thing also is, look at what actually happened in that game. It's not like he went out. And by the way, even if he did go out there and struck out everybody, I would still look at the numbers overall for Jose Urena and be like, well, he's not a good pitcher. That individual start, though, he pitched 6+ innings. He had 2 strikeouts, 3 walks. He had an xFIP of 5.88, so nearly 6. He just didn't happen to give up runs. It happens all the time in baseball, where just random stuff ends up happening. Chad Kuhl pitched like a near perfect game against the Dodgers at Coors Field at one point earlier in the season. But I don't take anything away from that game and be like, oh, the Dodgers just don't hit Jose Urena. The Dodgers have an implied team total of 7.5 runs today. They're expected to score a lot of runs. That is the most likely scenario. Doesn't mean it's guaranteed to happen. No. But if you had to bet on one team to be the top scoring team of the day, you'd be silly if you didn't take the Dodgers.
You would be very silly. It would be absurd. It isn't like a run away from like Toronto is projected for almost 6 runs, or now at 6 runs, where I'm looking at a spot for an implied run total. 10, yeah, I'm doing the math. 6 would be the implied total now for Toronto. So they're within a run. But outside of those two, there isn't anything remotely close. Everybody else is sub 5 outside of the Yankees. Oh, Yankees win. Weird how yesterday I said Andrew Benintendi that it was going to be a showcase game for him to go get traded to the Yankees. Well, nothing like putting on the opposing jersey and being in a new clubhouse the second you get to town in New York. That's got to be a really good feeling if you're Andrew Benintendi today, right?
Yeah, they got him leading off also, which, if he got traded to any other team, he wouldn't be playing today. But just the fact that the Royals are playing against the Yankees, it was like, oh, cool. I just walked to the other side of the field and I'm ready to go. So he's in the lineup much quicker than you would typically expect from somebody who just got traded. And I assume this also means that Joey Gallo long-term, I know the Yankees are playing him today, but I can't imagine he's a regular spot in the lineup, especially when Giancarlo Stanton gets back. So he's probably either getting moved or DFA'd. Something's happening to him sometime soon. But as far as the Yankees go, I do think this game is pretty interesting overall, because The Yankees ownership has come up a little bit from this morning. They were projected for 2% ownership. Now it's 5%. Brady Singer has been good this year. He's limited hard contact. He's also generated a bunch of strikeouts. But anytime you get the Yankees at 5% ownership, it's something that's going to be interesting for me. And it's not like Brady Singer's an ace. It's not like they're going up against Max Scherzer again.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's going to feel like a Swedish massage after yesterday, getting mowed down by Scherzer for 6+ innings. That's not great. So I'm with you where I think this Yankees team is one that I have to be looking at getting to a little bit more of. Love getting the opportunity to get to them when they're not popular, but kind of closing the loop on the Dodgers before we go elsewhere on the board. You had said it before, finding contrarian pitchers, finding contrarian secondary stacks. You have to do things with these Dodgers lineups. Is there something you in particular have targeted? Is there another stack you're pairing with Dodgers bats? Is there something that you're just like, yes, this is kind of the cheat code for this slate?
I don't know if I would call it a cheat code, but I think the end of the Tigers lineup stacks fairly well with the Dodgers, and it's not going to be a particular popular players to roster, at least not the back end of the Tigers. So I'll pull up some of these guys in their individual ownership, but the top of the order is picking up some steam for Detroit. We've got Javi Baez is projected for 9% ownership. There's 7% going to Robbie Gross. Nothing crazy. We get into some of the back end guys, and Victor Reyes is 1% owned. Willie Castro, 4% owned. I think mixing and matching some of these guys just because of all the struggles that Yusei Kikuchi has had, and also the price tag just work out really well. I think I'm leaning towards this being my secondary stack and the way that I could differentiate Dodgers stacks.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring it over to Mr. Nice Guy's $5 super chat. Told you I would be coming back and circling back when it was more applicable to do so. This is the moment. He asks, Greg, do you have any rules or preferences on stacking? Do you go 5-3 or 4-4 for FD, 4-2-2, 3-3-2? How do you feel about one-offs? I will let you start and I will finish the loop on that.
All right. So I'm going to answer all of these in parts. What are your preferences on stacking? So it looks like he's asking DraftKings and FanDuel. DK, I make 5-man stacks. I don't force a 3-man secondary stack. If it comes up, cool. If it doesn't, also cool with me. FanDuel, I make 4-3 lineups. And then how do I feel about one-offs? I'm not exactly sure how to answer that part of the question.
I mean, one-offs just show up when you're building 5-2-1s, and then 4-3-1s on FanDuel, which tend to be my most popular build. I've been actually experimenting with some 4-2-1-1s over on FanDuel lately. 4-4s used to kind of be the way to go, but then you run into these spots with the pricing being so soft where you can play Aaron Judge is 26, 28% on FanDuel every single day. That's ending in Y because, even if he's 4,800, 4,900 over there, everybody else is priced so poorly over there. And I mean, we haven't even gotten to the Dodger pricing on FanDuel. It is just so abysmal for everybody. You have a sub 4K Mookie Betts in Coors. Like that's going to be somebody who shows up as a popular one-off. So for me, I'm just trying to find ways to reduce a lot of the ownership in my lineups, whether it's a 5-2-1 on DK, my most common stack, if I'm talking about my own builds personally. And then 4-3-1 is still my most popular way on FanDuel that I am building day in, day out. But sometimes you get such egregious pricing, and every slate's different. But on FanDuel, where I've been experimenting a little bit more with 4-2s, and it's kind of been going decently well. Had a couple of good nights in the last 2-3 weeks as I've started to delve into that. I'm going to need a larger sample size. I've never really not gone 4-4 or 4-3 there in like 4 or 5 years of playing on FanDuel, but just starting to figure out whether or not that's going to be something I actually want to do. And that has more to do with avoiding 2 really, really chalky one-offs in that combination for what it's worth.
Yeah. There's nothing specific I do to pick one-offs, if that's part of the question, though. It's just what comes up in Fantasy Cruncher. It's not like I go in like, oh, I love this guy, so therefore I'm going to try to include him in a bunch of lineups as a one-off. Whatever Fantasy Cruncher ends up spitting out is usually cool with me. One thing I will note, though, if you're hand building, is we do have over on Stokastic.com now a top batters tool, which has the percentage chance of each individual hitter to be a top scoring hitter at their position. So if you are a hand building lineups and you're trying to figure out how to optimize your one-offs, I think that's a very useful tool to use.
It's a great shout out. God, I do love everything we have going here. We also have the top batters tool now, which again, in Fantasy Cruncher, when I have time, it's hard on days like today or on different shows. I'll go through and I will remove certain one-offs from the pool. You can literally make a one-man stack in Fantasy Cruncher, and you can kind of remove certain guys, like certain back end of the guys that I might not want as a 2K one-off, where everything else might fit together in those lineups. Kind of avoid having some of those, but again, it's more of a personal preference. It's fun for me to kind of build lineups that way. It's not so much something where it's like you have to be doing that. I just want to make sure that I don't want to get the most popular one-offs with the most popular stacks. Alex has an article on the site as well that talks a lot about how you should be putting Dodger stacks with a less popular secondary stack, because otherwise you're just holding hands with so much of the field and there's no way to kind of claw yourself to the top. You need everything to go perfectly. Whereas if you stack up 5 Tigers today, probably don't need everything to go perfectly. You just need the Dodgers to probably fail.
You know what's pretty funny? Because I was looking through the top batters tool. It might not surprise you. A lot of the players that have the best odds of being top scoring player come from the Dodgers.
Shocking.
If I just go position by position, we've got a catcher, and I'll just give out who all the players are. Catcher, Will Smith is the most likely player to be the high scoring catcher. First base, Freddie Freeman. Second base, Gavin Lux. Shortstop, Trey Turner. Third base, Jose Ramirez, just barely ahead of Max Muncy. Then outfield, it's Mookie Betts. So a lot of Dodgers popping up there.
I have a weird question, and I don't know if there's a utility for it other than if people are hand building and you're trying to figure out, what to do for single entry. First of all, are you playing the Dodgers in your single entry lineup?
Yep. Yeah, I'm doing the Dodgers. That's actually what I talked about before, because I've been contemplating, trying to figure out what it is that I was doing. It's 5-man Dodger stack, and then I have a secondary stack of the back end of the Tigers lineup.
So does it have Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith?
I have to open up
I'm just curious which one you omitted and why. I think that might be a right way to do it, because everybody on this team, including Zack Mckenzie, is over 24% owned right now. That's absurd. But it's not that absurd. It completely makes sense. But I'm just curious, if you were going to short one of Trey Turner, Will Smith, Max Muncy, or Gavin Lux, or sorry, not Gavin Lux, Trey Turner, Will Smith, Mookie Betts, or Freddie Freeman, the top 4 guys in terms of just raw projection, I'm curious which one you were more inclined to get away from.
So you said Smith, Freeman, Turner, and Betts?
Yep.
So if I use the answer would be Mookie Betts, just
Correct.
because there's so many outfield options.
Correct. And that's what I was going to get at. I think getting away from Mookie Betts in a single entry makes a lot of sense today, because you have other options around. And sure, if you're playing 150, you're going to scatter the board maybe, and you're still going to play a ton of Mookie Betts. Like, I don't think there's any way around it, but I think he would be the guy, if I'm hand building out something, that would probably be the first person to have to leave the stack. Even though, I have 31% of him right now. So I can't really say that I'm not playing him. I'm just saying in my main lineup, he's not a part of it.
Although actually, I think Freddie Freeman and Vlad are fairly interchangeable.
I suppose. Freddie Freeman, from a home run perspective, he's just, the word isn't disappointed. Like, I don't think that's the right word, but I would expect him to have more than 15 homers at this stage of the year.
What is his career high in homers?
It's a great question.
It's less than 40, isn't it?
We'll find out. Wikipedia, here we go. Home runs in a season, 15. He had 31 last year, 13, 38, 23, 28, 34. I guess it's not that much of a home run hitter overall. There you go.
With that said, it's a bet I like today?
Freddie Freeman to homer.
Plus 450 to homer. Plus 450, though, against Jose Urania.
I'm saying he doesn't get a lot of respect in the home run markets. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's pretty wild. Freddie Freeman's numbers, they're always the highest out of like the top 4 for the Dodgers, and that includes Will Smith.
No respect. So anyway, here's the case for Vlad, and I'll use the top batters tool as a reference. Freddie Freeman's projected for 30% ownership. Vlad is projected for 13% ownership. The odds of each of them be the top scoring player at the position: 11.3% for Freeman, 11.1% for Vlad.
That's wild. Yeah. All right. I'm kind of reconsidering some stuff that I'm hand building out here too while we're on the show. Again, this is what happens when you're I will say NBA is by far the easiest one to build when you're on shows. MLB, we got every lineup except for, the Giants came in while we were on this show, so that was useful. That kind of rounded the loop because now we've got every lineup. But I find baseball, just because I'm trying to intricately change like little tiny things that are going to make it a little bit different, or what I think give me a little bit of an edge, just making sure that the lineups look how I want them to and not having lineups where it accidentally doesn't have all 5 mans on DK or stuff like that. I do find this to be like more stressful building MLB lineups on a live before lock.
Oh no, basketball by far.
I love building on basketball because I can just, I can throw away everything I've been working on all day in the drop of a hat, and I have no qualms about it. Like, I don't care in the NBA. In this, I feel like I've been staring at it all day. There's certain things I'm micromanaging. I don't know. That's a personal opinion.
Okay. Counterpoint. There was a point in time where a certain man named Paul George was.
I knew you were going to do this.
But is it not a valid point? This is why basketball, things change so quickly and you have to make so many reactions. Like, to me, baseball building is fair. Like, we get the lineup so far in advance. Basketball, we're just totally scrambling. It doesn't mean I don't like it I love NBA DFS. That's my favorite DFS sport to play. But in terms of just building the lineups and what is the most difficult on shows, it's basketball because shit changes so quickly.
Dennis Forgey, I've never heard Eric cry during an MLB slate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, that's also not true, but because of me, not because of a player.
Oh yeah, no, because you're a jerk. You're a jerk face. Ron Burgundy, poop in your mouth. Gee, thanks. Let's double check this Boston weather too here while I talk about Yahoo. Let's do that. Yahoo, guys. MLB season going on right now. Oh, Jordan Klein's got to get back.
Where did he go?
I have no idea, but we got to keep talking about this. Ryan Nelson, $1.99. Eric enjoys pain. Makes sense why he loves NBA. I do love pain. It's a beautiful thing. Ryan Nelson again earlier. Is this the quickest a revenge game has happened? Yeah, when you just walk across the locker room. I know this has happened multiple times in MLB over the years. I just can't think of a specific example. But I will say, pretty cool. You get on the Kansas City flight, you end up in New York, and then you just, hey, there's people who are in charge of finding you an apartment, and you're all set, and life's good. You live in New York now. Upgrade over Kansas City, not going to lie.
Well, in terms of revenge game, Steven Adams got kicked in the balls by Draymond Green and then to play him again 2 days later. In terms of revenge, who's feeling more vengeful? Benintendi for getting to play for a better baseball team and live in a better city, or Steven Adams after getting kicked in the balls? I know which one would make me angrier.
You said my trigger word, live. We don't say that word.
I did?
You did. You said we would have to live.
Oh, yeah, live in... Yeah, but if I'm Benintendi, I have no ill will towards the Royals.
Yeah, no, life is great. You are very happy with the way things played out. Unless you don't care about winning, in which case you don't really care. But I bet he does because he's a professional athlete and most of them do.
In fairness to Dope Heathen, he's saying better city is debatable. I've never been to Kansas City, so maybe I can't.
I have multiple times for soccer tournaments, basketball tournaments, golf tournaments. New York, slightly better. No offense. Barbecue, great. Lovely. Love your dry ribs, but that's about all I got for you. What I also got for you guys is Yahoo Fantasy. That is the sponsor here of the Live Before Lock show and Deeper Dive, our predecessor show. But guys, we have an offer that's lasting for the next 3 days. You have 3 days to sign up and get 1 free month. Yes, I said free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum. All you have to do is head over to Yahoo, deposit, and play in any of the contests that exist over there. Then Yahoo's going to send us your email, and we're going to make sure that you get that free month of Stokastic Plus. So again, MLB Live is great for 50% off, but 1 free month lasting you until, throughout the entire days of summer, you can have all of the baseball projections, all of the great golf content as we get close to the FedEx Cup here, as we have everything else going for F1, NASCAR, esports just going crazy now. We have so many new guys that are going to be doing amazing work in the esports department. Take advantage of this offer that Yahoo is providing you guys. Get that free month right now. All you do, sign up, go there right now, use your email. If you haven't played over there before, you'll get that free month of Stokastic. So stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Stokastic, but do it through our friends and partners over at Yahoo Fantasy. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship of the Live Before Lock show. My friend, DraftKings, other stacks we might have interest in. I talked about it before, and I'll talk about it again. I like the Detroit Tigers a lot because I don't think people understand just how bad Yusei Kakuchi was beforehand. I brought it up, negative 0.5 WAR. He has a 14% walk rate. He has a 488 expected slugging. He has a 51.1% hard hit percentage, and I mean, he's just getting obliterated by both sides of the plate. I know there's not really any lefties here for Detroit today. That's sad, but I just don't know how I don't get to a ton of this team considering the public. Yeah, you said the top half of the Tigers lineup was getting represented a little bit, but even still, not any way that I'm going to get away from. Eric Haas, probably my favorite play on the entire slate, 4,300 a catcher. Talk to me about the Tigers.
Yeah, I mentioned they're my favorite contrarian stack to get to, particularly the back end of the lineup. In the top of the order, to be clear, there is some popularity there. Like Javi Baez is almost 10% owned, but the back end of the order isn't going to be owned, and I think that is a good way to differentiate some Dodgers stacks. Something else that's funny about Kakuchi. Do you remember his last start?
Yeah, the Athletics, right?
He was like 40% owned that day.
It was beautiful.
Yeah,
I had 0%.
The last time Kakuchi started, he was like 40% owned against the A's. He pitched 2 innings, had 0 strikeouts, walked 5 hitters, and gave up 4 runs.
It's bad.
Yeah, and the ownership was absolutely absurd that day, and now he's coming back. If he makes it through 4, 5, 6 innings and doesn't give up a ton of runs, he's gonna have a really good fantasy game because the only way he gets guys out is via strikeouts. But he could end up walking a lot of guys. I think there's a lot of upside that's going unrecognized in the Tigers, and Kakuchi is far more popular than Detroit is. So I do like Detroit for leverage.
I'm so with you. I hope he is 25% owned, and I will live with the result of whatever happens. I mean, we've got him right now at 18%. I think that's exactly kind of where he comes in at. Can't imagine anybody that's a box score watcher clicks on Kakuchi and thinks, you know what, I need to get to this guy. So again, tools, data, everybody being a data-driven player in the year of our Lord 2022, or at least should be, because it's the best way to do it. Still, I get why you're getting to Kakuchi. He's not in my player pool. I will not be. I have 1 share out of 20 in the $4, out of 150 on FanDuel, where I'm playing a little bit more today. Yeah, there's just no way that I'm going to be playing Yusei Kakuchi in any kind of a meaningful way. So get that out of the way. Go Detroit. Just smash his face in. That's all I can say. What a fraud. Him and Jose Barrios, the 2 biggest frauds in baseball. Ooh, I can get strikeouts, but you suck. Let's go back to other stacks to get to. Toronto, super popular as well. Don't think we've talked about them. I get that, that they're minus 250 favorites. Everybody wants to get to them because they put up a quantous amount of runs, or that's not the word I was looking for. A large quantity of runs. It's a quantous. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. But Dodgers,
but
I'd much rather just play the Dodgers over Toronto if I'm building one lineup. I would much rather play more of the Dodgers than Toronto because the floor, even for the Dodgers, could end up being the ceiling of the slate. I don't feel the same way for Toronto. How do you feel about them in the grand scheme of this slate?
Quantus, noun, plural, a particular indefinite amount of anything, a small quantity of milk, the ocean's vast quantity of fish. That's a word.
Oh, okay. I had it.
Quantus. I think it's
incorrectly used by me.
It's Latin. You're just sophisticated.
I am smarter than I lead on.
Yeah. So here's the issue I have with Toronto. It's something that Adam brought up when we were doing the strategy show this morning, is that Tyler Alexander, while he's not good, this is primarily likely a bullpen game for the Tigers. And they do have a really solid bullpen because we're looking up their bullpen numbers earlier. And I think there's something like 3rd or 4th in wins above replacement for a bullpen of any team in baseball. Their ERA as a team is just over 3, and their FIP also as a bullpen is just over 3. So a lot of this team as a stack is going to come down to the first few innings, because if the Blue Jays hit Tyler Alexander hard, then they're probably not going to go to their best bullpen arms. But if he's serviceable and only gives up 1 or 2 runs in his first 3 innings and they turn it over to the bullpen, you're probably seeing the higher leverage and the better Detroit Tigers reliever. So I think this is a tougher matchup than a lot of people realize because of the quality of the Tigers bullpen. So I agree with you. If I'm playing a chalky offense, I would prefer the Dodgers to the Rockies. And then, like I said before, you just make secondary stacks or mix in some other hitters that just aren't picking up ownership. And that's how you can differentiate the hitters. I typically don't really roster the Coors Field stacks when it's projected for north of 30% ownership on these kind of slates. This is one of them where I kind of feel like I have to, though.
All right. Any other stack that you really want to highlight here before we talk about our lineups? Because I want to hear, because again, we both were building throughout this show, using each other's opinions on certain things to kind of dictate what we do. I always think that that's always a good way to do it because you're sharp. I'm okay. We can figure out things as we go. But looking at the top stacks tool right now, there's positive leverage for like the Angels against Spencer Howard. I get that. I'm taking a couple more Spencer Howard shots than I probably should and making that work for me. The Cubbies, I don't want to do that at all today. No, thank you. The Yankees, we've already talked about. Any other team that you're getting to in any kind of a meaningful way?
Not meaningful, but if I had to take a shot on a 1% on team, the one that makes the most sense to me is the Seattle Mariners. I think the more I look at Jose Urquidy's numbers, and I went back and forth talking with this about Adam this morning. I didn't watch the deeper dive to know what he ended up doing with Urquidy, but he at least this morning he had liked him quite a bit. But I just look at the numbers, and the underlying numbers are so shitty for Urquidy. He has a 4.79 expected ERA, a 4.5 FIP. He does not generate strikeouts. His K rate is 18.2%. The Mariners offense, it's been really solid ever since Julio Rodriguez, well, number one now with him back, but ever since he broke out, and the first month of the season was a little rocky for Rodriguez, but he's been a superstar since then. And I do think this is an above average offense against right-hand pitching. And I'm just not very bullish on Jose Urquidy. So that would be my 1% owned stack. As far as the other really low owned stacks, I don't really know that any of them stand out to me all that much. The teams we have to look at in the 1% range, it's the Mariners, and that's one I like. The Cubs in San Francisco against Alex Wood, not really. The Royals with now a lessened offense against Jameson Taillon, not really interested. The Rangers against Shohei Ohtani, no. The Pirates against Zack Wheeler, no. And all these teams are right around 1% owned. So I think the Mariners are the best unowned offense.
All right. I think that's a great shout out. Urquidy is not very good. I don't mind them at all. I have a little bit of them. I have 4% of them as a stack right now in 150 on FanDuel. That's fine by me. Julio Rodriguez is definitely the guy that I have the most of from that team. That shouldn't surprise anybody. Speed, power, definitely think 1.5 total bases for him on Prize Picks today. Give me the over, fam. I think it was like minus 125 or minus 135 at books earlier, and that just makes a lot of sense to get to. But anything that you had from a betting perspective you want the people to know before we get to lock? You said you liked the home run. I can't remember who it was, though.
Freddie Freeman plus 450 to homer. Okay. That is a bet I have today. Whether that still exists or not, I am not totally positive because those numbers always end up moving as we get closer to lock. I'm pulling up Odd Chopper right now to see what bets are still up. By the way, DK Metcalf, 3-year contract extension with the Seahawks. All right, let's see. What is up on the board right now?
Gives him some time to go meet up with girls that he doesn't end up sleeping with. Oh, sorry, I'm busy. That was one of the greatest stories of all time. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But
DK Mac, who knows? Well, Spencer Howard's over-under for strikeouts is 4.5. That's a pretty high number for Spencer Howard.
Guy with a 17% K percentage. Again, these are the Angels. They're basically a AAA lineup on the back half of it, so I get it. You get a Magnarius Sierra. It's the nicest thing I've said about him.
So the bets I have today, a lot of them they just don't exist anymore. But so like Brady Singer, I bet Brady Singer over 4.5 strikeouts, but I bet that at minus 105 and it's minus 166 now. So that is a way different looking number. Like I liked it at minus 105. I'm not betting it at minus 166. No. Let's see, what is Freddie Freeman now? Freeman's moved from plus 450 to homer to plus 400. Plus 400 is still viable. It's not the 450 number, but I could get behind Freddie Freeman still at plus 400 to homer.
All right. Guys, I think we've kind of reached what we need to do. To recap for the people, Greg, your favorite 3 pitcher. Oh, I guess there's one from Steve McGee. I'll give him a shout out. He's got a lovely badge. Get those badges there in YouTube, fam. He said Steel or Wood for an SP2 for a big tournament.
Steele or Wood?
Mm-hmm.
Alex Wood.
Yeah, I'm going to go Alex Wood too. I like Justin Steele just as an inducing ground ball kind of guy. We haven't really seen any upside outside of one game in the last however long. There's just not enough strikeouts there for me to want to go that direction. So
Great porn name, though. Great porn name.
Yeah. Dirk
Not gonna do
Diggler,
much.
Justin Steele.
Yeah. Justin Steele from San Francisco. But yeah, not going to do very much for him today.
Oh, me so horny. Love that. Love that. I tried to get Jordan Klein to look up. I didn't get anything from him there.
That was very disturbing. Somebody cut off that piece.
No, it's lovely. Rumple smooth skin. Get into my bands, so use me.
I'm very disturbed by what came out of your mouth just now.
That's literally from Baby Got Back. Me so horny.
Yeah. All right. I think we got to finish the show. I think Eric's got some cartoons to touch himself to.
Okay. Well, on that note, he's Jordan Klein down there. You guys can't see him, but you guys love him. You know him. Give him some love in the chat. He's got a rumbly in his tumbly. I love him very much, though. Greg Ehrenberg up top. Great work per usual. Thanks for making fun of me again. Just another day ending in Y. Any final words for the people?
No, just whatever you just did before. Never do that again.
Okay, sounds great. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm going to go sit in the corner and cry. We'll see you guys later. Thank you, Yahoo.